Blog Talk Radio.
Man. They tried to tell me that aliens built the pyramids. It's funny because they probably did.
Fuck I'm doing talking about pineal glands. Fuck I'm doing talking about pineal glands. Ancient ways of Sumerian. Ain't nothing wrong with a righteous man.
This is my Anunnaki flow. This be my Anunnaki flow. Yo, I got that Anunnaki flow. You are now on planet X. I'm the God, show your respect. I'm the destroyer, and this is doomsday. 360,000 years since I made way. Hey, I hate to be the one to warn ya. Your government knew all along, guess they weren't trying to spoil it for ya. Boy, oh boy, I'm hot to death. High as my magnetic field. Theologists preach of me, but they don't think I'm really real. All my angels up in here, all my demons up in here. I know who brought you in this world. They'll take you out of here. The law of relativity's cute. I even sunk Atlantis too. NASA on that bullshit. They always cropping out my crew. And they be loving the crew. Yeah, they be loving the crew. I know that you heard about me way back in school. Mayan calendars, went to church, we all know revelations. You see Porsches, behold a pale horses, got them in coordination. Watch out for them 7 seals, I'll be in the sky. The Euphrates River's dry, so you know it's real.
Fuck I'm doing talking about pineal glands. Fuck I'm doing talking about pineal glands. Ancient ways of Sumerian. Ain't nothing wrong with a righteous man.
This is my Anunnaki flow. This be my Anunnaki flow. Yo, I got that Anunnaki flow. You are now on planet X. I'm the God, show your respect. My power. No man know it's the hour of my return. It'll be like a thief in the night. Make sure your people's alright. That's right, the writing's on the wall. They was only worried about Saddam. They had a ball to go against the God. The only brown dwarf swagging. Cross your son just like a dragon. The Japanese know what's happening. They was debating about Kobe and LeBron. The Bible or the Quran. They should have been taking cover. They said I'm red, but gold is my favorite color. Witnesses agree, they see me with wings when I hover. Might even make your pole shift when I'm skipping through. My orbit is a bitch on her menstrual. They undermined the prophecy of Daniel, that's a bummer. Now I'm at your doorstep, but not for sugar. This that Anunnaki flow. Inky and Lewis love it. Serious is the war in Syria, bitch.
Fuck I'm doing talking about pineal glands. Fuck I'm doing talking about pineal glands. Ancient ways of Sumerian. Ain't nothing wrong with a righteous man.
This is my Anunnaki flow. This be my Anunnaki flow. Yo, I got that Anunnaki flow. You are now on planet X. I'm the God, show your respect. My power.
Global warming's alive, the moon is a satellite. Holographic universe.
North Star to God. This for you, homie. This for you, homie.
Back in the 1950s, most people aren't aware of it, but there was a scientific storm in America all through the late 50s about this thing out there in space, because the astronomers were all watching it, and that was back when they weren't afraid to talk about it. It was in the science magazines. I mean, I had a subscription to, like, Popular Science, and hell, it was on the front cover of the magazine one day in, like, 1961.
Hey, yo, just in case I get killed for this shit.
Because here's this giant red planet on the horizon of the California coast, and a humongous tidal wave coming in towards the coast, and having grew up in the mountains of the Sierras, and this thing in the magazine it said this tidal wave coming in was going to be at least 3 miles high, and I went and showed it to everybody in the house, and they laughed and they said, look, it says right here, there's nothing to worry about, it won't be here for another 50 years. Hey, guess what? That 50 years has came and gone, and this baby's out there in the sky. They've been watching it. I watched it, and I could tell you, this thing has got so much trash coming around it. You know how we live in a solar system? We've got 9 planets and a big sun. This thing has got 7 planets and its own sun, but
yes, greetings everyone, and give thanks for tuning in to Real Radio Talk. And tonight we have some special guests. Of course, we have the Mighty Hebrew, who comes on every 3rd Sunday. And, you know, we came together with Rastafari and Hebrew Israelite meets every 3rd Sunday. And the Mighty Hebrew is a guest / I would say, I guess, co-host. And then he also invited a guest named Holy Blades, a.k.a. Justin Russell. And I'm not sure exactly where he is from, but I just assume he's from USA. And then we have David D. Mouse as the co-host for Real Radio Talk, and it helps me with the switchboard. And he's calling in from Dallas, Texas. And then we just have a new freshly co-host, Stefan Lambert, who agreed to give his services and come on the radio as a guest himself and spread his knowledge on the things that he does in his field. And he's from Los Angeles, California. Right, so it looks like we have our guests on the switchboard, so we'll just let David and Stefan introduce themselves, and then we'll just go straight into the program.
Peace and blessings, everyone. This is David from DeSoto, Texas, a suburb of Dallas. It's still Dallas, but it's a suburb. Hope everybody enjoyed their day after the Sabbath.
Yes, give thanks. I don't think Stefan is on the line as of yet, so I assume once he gets on, he'll introduce himself. But the Mighty Hebrew number is the 267, so you can open up his mic.
All righty. Peace and blessings.
Shalom.
Mighty Hebrew.
Kang, Shalom, Bahashim, Yahuwah, HaKodesh, Yasha Allah. What's going on, Empress, Brother Dawiyah, Brother David? How you feeling?
Awesome.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. It's good to be in the house, giving all praise and honor to Yahuwah, the supreme, eternal, powerful one of our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. You know what I mean? It's good to be here tonight. It's going to be a powerful presentation tonight. You know, if you look at Real Radio Talk on the group page, it was like a little close to 400 views waiting to see this, listen to this presentation tonight. Hallelujah.
Awesome.
Oh, yes, I did see that. I think it was today or yesterday. Might have been yesterday. I noticed. I know you inboxed it to me. You screenshotted it and inboxed it to me, and I thought it was like 396. People saw that post.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, it looks like we have Stefan is on the line, the 310, David. So we're going to open his mic up.
Awesome. Hello, Stefan.
How you doing?
Yes, everything is blessed. How you doing?
Feeling absolutely excellent. The more I hear from our people, the more I learn about our history, the stronger I get.
That's right.
Yeah, awesome. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was just talking about you a few minutes ago, saying that when you call in, you can introduce yourself and, get into the Black History Month Minute, and then we'll let the guest, and he'll bring on his guest and introduce himself, going into the program like that.
Sounds good. I'm ready to go. So.
Okay.
All right.
The mic is yours right now.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Our history and our knowledge is very important, and this Black History Minute is brought to you by HistoryParades.com and Universal Herbal. Today, our Black history is about a Black-owned town and how it was created and what it did to revolutionize the train industry. There's a town called Boley, Oklahoma, and it was established in 1903. How it became famous and actually infamous is the story behind how they created one of the strongest economies in the nation because of how they innovated when a train would pull in and stop. According to a central town clock, the companies, the merchants, and the business people would be ready to load and unload the train. What happened was this area and land was owned by an Indian woman by the name of Abigail Burnett. She was known as a rainmaker. So whenever there was a drought and there was very little rain, Abigail Burnett was known to be able to pray, chant, and dance, and within 2 or 3 days, it would rain. A gentleman that they called Brother T.M. Haynes worked with her areas on Miss Barnett's property that black people could purchase because it was almost guaranteed that there was going to be rainfall. So what happened was Mr. Haynes decided that they should incorporate and make a town because they would always have crops. So what happened was there was a roadmaster that worked with the train stations to navigate where the train would stop. This person's name was Barnell Kemp. Now, he had a partner, and he wanted to have some land on Abigail's property. So his partner was named J.E. Bowley. Mr. Haynes, Brother T.M. Haynes, made a proposal, and at this time, black people were not recognized to be able to have a city in their name or even, govern their own selves. They had to be under somebody. So the proposal stated that with a better way for the trains to run and stop at a certain time and unload and load their goods. And Mr. Bowley, the white guy, he had to make the presentation. In exchange for that, he would receive 40 acres, and a street would be named after him. So, lo and behold, the system worked so good that the train company incorporated this system, but Mr. Bowley decided he wanted to take over and insisted the name of the town would be Bowley, Oklahoma. So they agreed to that, just get it going, but Mr. Bowley didn't know how to farm the land, and nobody black helped him. So eventually, the black people bought the 40 acres of land from Mr. Bowley, and then they decided that never again would they sell any land to anybody white because they would try to come and take over. And it has remained one of the few totally black-owned towns that will not sell any property to whites, and that's Bowley, Oklahoma. That's been our African-American History Minute.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Awesome.
Learning something new again.
Awesome.
I think it was really cool. It set a strong precedent, and we could follow that. They did what they had to do.
Exactly.
To get it, and then they had a plan. They said, okay, look, this is going to belong to us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any questions?
Mm-hmm. No, that was just beautiful to listen to, All the questions is answered.
I get a lot of strength from our real history. It's no wonder that they go out of their way to make sure we don't know our history, even in this country, because we find out a whole bunch of things that actually created industry and made this country what it is came from black people.
That was definitely
So
that was definitely profound right there. And a lot of people, that's amongst the youth today because of the lackadaisical spirit within our nation. They don't even know this type of history, so they can elevate and take it a step further. But it was definitely an honor and a privilege, and I learned something tonight as well. And I can't wait to hear more to come in future shows. I love it.
Okay. Thanks a lot. I think we can take a strong lesson because we are so brilliant, and we have been convinced that we need them to run stuff, and they try to convince us of that. But it's always a way to outthink them. I mean, they can benefit too, but it's like they ain't gonna just own everything, that which is their nature, So it's that middle ground, you work with them, but you make sure that they're in control over what's yours.
Yes, most definitely. Most definitely. And they have to know that from the top. So there'll be no static in between.
It's real, and it can be done. Muhammad Ali told us. He said, we can work in the industry. He said boxing was a way where he made a living and created wealth for his family. He said he wasn't crazy about the training every day like he was, but that was how he became successful. But it was a business for him,
Yeah. So let's just move on the mic over to the Mighty Hebrew because he has to bring on his guest and introduce himself. And then, we can still keep the same vibe going, not to cut you or anything. But
Okay. Absolutely. Hallelujah. You was going to say something, brother, before I start the presentation? Excuse me.
I was just saying, I say, my brother.
Okay, I say.
There you are.
First and foremost, I give all praise and honor to Yahuwah I Am Sof, the rootless one of existence. I give all praise and honor to the Hebrew Israelite nation, all over the four corners of the earth, and all those striving for righteousness' sake, near and far. I greet your ancient Ivrit, Lashon Kwadash, Shalom, and modern Sephardic Hebrew, Shalom Aleichem. My name is Tribal Minister Nasik Sharla and Dean Ben Ami, Matazar Yam Ben Yasha Allah Senior. Y'all know me as the Mighty Hebrew. I'm the founding father of Hebrew Israelite Sovereign Nationalism, also the Mighty Hebrew University, as well as the Mighty Hebrew Israelite Sovereign Nationalistic Research Team, the Mighty Hebrew Israelite Sovereign Law Firm, the founding father of Hebrew Anthropogenesis, as well as Hebrew Cosmogenesis. It's an honor and a privilege to be here today to bring forth a powerful presentation. Our presentation is going to be something that may shake a lot of foundations tonight, not purposely, but to give more of a clear overview dealing with the Hebrew Israelite culture from an esoteric perspective. For a long period of time, we've been looking at the Hebrew Israelite culture from the lens of your Gentiles that put us in captivity. A lot of times when we read the scriptures, we read it based on a Western mind state versus an Eastern mind state. And there's a brother from out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Justin Russell. I like to call him Dr. Justin Russell. He's a Kabbalistic scholar. He has his own Kabbalistic study research team. He's in 2018 going to be teaching, Kabbalistic studies from out of, said university out in Pittsburgh. It's an honor to have him here. There's brothers and sisters, in the midst of Israel that people really don't know about, that's master teachers themselves. And it's an honor for me to have the brother here tonight with us. He's going to be bringing forth the understanding of the audited Kabbalistic understanding, because for a long time the Kabbalah has been getting nasty views by a lot of unlearned men and women. A lot of people say it's sorcery, idolatry, different things like that. It comes from this school of thought, that school of thought. But I'm not going to give everything up. He's the guest. But as we develop within the presentation, I'll put my input in. But I want to, focus on him. But without further ado, I would like to bring in Dr. Justin Russell from out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Are you there, good brother? Do y'all have him in the host queue? The host queue.
Yeah, what number is he calling from?
Let me see. Let me contact him real. Will you say that again?
224
okay.
or 203.
Let me find out right now. He can hear us. I'm telling you, if he can hear me, inbox me your area code. He's doing it now.
Or 240.
It's 724.
All right. 724. All right.
Okay, the mic is open.
Shalom. Can you hear me?
Can. We can hear you, good brother. How you feeling today?
Man, I'm just blessed to be here. I'm excited that the Kabbalah, and as you said, it's been misinterpreted. Different schools of thought have taken it and thrown it behind the shed, and it's been a couch fire for years. And we've had people from, people from all types of walks and just talking about it, and it's that they've had good points, but it's like if I want baker's goods for bakeries, like cookies, right? I'm gonna go to a baker. I wouldn't go to a plumber if I want cookies. So it's good that for me, I've been a Kabbalist for 21 years. This is my first phone interview. I shot against doing interviews and stuff because it is esoteric science. It is something that is sacred. But I think the time is now, as the Most High has given me the clearance, and so as my teachers are giving me the clearance to now to speak on it to publicly, as far as like on the radio.
There's a lot of static in your background.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, but there's a lot of static in your background, like this.
Okay, how about now?
No.
It's a little on this end.
Okay, is it better now?
Okay. Yeah, that's better.
Yes, it's better on this end. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, like it's my first interview. So as far as like over the phone or anything of this nature. So if you can't hear it, if some gets static, you just let me know if I start speaking on the presentation.
I'm reading you loud and clear on this end.
Yes, sir. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to brief introduction. There's a lot to get to in a short period of time. First of all, I want to thank the Mighty Hebrew for putting me on. That's someone I met years ago in New York City. He's always been up front and on point with his knowledge, and he inspired me in a lot of areas, and that's definitely someone like he dealt with the Kabbalah, and you see that Israelite dealing with Kabbalah. I mean, it almost knocked me out of my chair. I mean, that's usually you don't pair Israelites, or people call themselves the Hebrew Israelites. It's usually the Moors or somebody from Kemetic science deal with Kabbalah, or if you share somebody that's maybe like maybe now Satanism, or heard from Satanism, or anything with that school of thought. You can only learn Kabbalists from a Kabbalist. Now, I know in ancient times they didn't call themselves Kabbalists. The real name of Kabbalah is called Koftalam, which means deceived. But we're going to use Kabbalah because people are new to the science, and there's a lot of people out there who are interested in knowing exactly what it is. So I'm going to make a presentation that is direct to the point. What Kabbalah is not, as I run right into it, what Kabbalah is not is Jewish mysticism. And you can find it in Memorial. Now, there's some things I can touch on, some things I can't. But I will get into the priesthood part because it is the elephant in the room which deals with the Israelites. Because all the Israelites in Kabbalah, what is the connection? So to say, somebody Hebrew, can you hear me? hear you over here.
Kane, I can hear you, my lord.
Okay,
Now I
this
can
is what we're
I
going
just
to do.
heard you break down with the Lumerian thing, which is absolutely correct. I'm with you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What I want you to do, if I start, I want you, if you see something, you hear something, and you feel like you need to step in, just step right in. It's just like basketball. I'm going to lay the ball up, slam you down, you know.
So what I do is when I intervene, I'll say leash bolt to halt, and then I'll come in and intervene with you, or we just basically vegan backing off of each other, basically, correct?
Whatever. Hey, let's do it. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. But this
No
presentation
doubt.
is you, brother. I want you to shine on this, but I'm with you.
Well, so let's start from the beginning with the elephant in the room. It's been brought to my attention a few times of the Israelites and their connection with the Kabbalah. Some people think it came out of Egypt, that is like the 7th dynasty in Lexington, which is incorrect. You could say that the Israelites taught the Egyptians. I'm not going to get into the political, more or less, aspect of it, but I'm going to deal with the more the sacred geometrical aspect of it, and then we're going to get into the priesthood, and then most importantly, which I want to do right now, is give a book list, because I know people are listening and want to know about Kabbalah, where can they get books and do their own. Now, one thing I want to say is that people who study the Kabbalah, you need a teacher. Do not study on it because everybody knows the Kabbalah with the K, the Q, and the C. There is no difference between the K, the Q, and the C, and it's all Kabbalah. The Freemasons, the people in the Illuminati, so-called Illuminati Red Dawn Society, the Rastafarians and whatnot, they don't separate the two. It's scattered, okay? So even with the so-called Archaic, or what you call the Tree of Life, that's incorrect as well. If you do not know sacred geometry and you're not based your science with the Kabbalah and sacred geometry, you're going to be absolutely lost. And you're going to get stuff underneath the Christmas tree or bow wrap on. And that's what's happening right now. There are people speaking on the Kabbalah who are maybe like, like I said, there's different schools of thought as far as like, being an occultist. No disrespect to anybody who is an occultist and studies the Kabbalah, but you must get a Kabbalist for someone that deals with the esoteric, because there's a lot of ins and outs. It goes one way, then it goes another. A lot of the secret societies have put information out purposely to throw you off. That's why you have to study from the Kabbalah. So at that point now, I'm going to start off saying that this is a Safaric law, okay? The Safaric law, as you know, is the Sephiroth, which is the tree of life, so-called tree of life with Archaic. But the tree of life in itself, that's like graduate school, okay, when we deal with the Kabbalah. So that's something like, this is the first grade when you deal with the sacred geometry and understanding the origin and the order of the universe and how to operate within the universe. So now we're getting into cosmology and cosmogony, okay? The cosmogony of Kabbalah is where the fun starts. That's when the tire meets the road. But we're not going to get into that today. We're going to deal today with, okay, is the origins of sacred geometry and Kabbalah, which in turn will lead us into the understanding of the Israelite, and then with the Kabbalah. We're going to touch on a little bit of Lemuria and dealing with Israelite and the Kabbalah as well. It's time for me. And Lord wanted to. As our Christian brothers say, Jesus, take the left. All right. So the first book, let's start from the book. First of all, I want to explain Safaric law, because that's the way out there. Safaric law that operates in our bodies in the same way as it works inside the psyche and the soul. Psyche and the soul. But this time expressed in this model of man, or the Adam's pattern. Okay? So it's like I just said, it's how the universe and the macrocosmic spectrum, microcosmic spectrum, how they interact with each other, and how they express themselves, how you express yourself through space-time and through the thought, and you go beyond space-time and through the thought. So the first book we're going to look at is called The Mysteries of the Elite, Mathematics, Kabbalah, and the Search for Infinity by Amir D. Escalera. And this book is interesting to me, and I'm going to go flying through them. But this one's more interesting because of Chapter 2. I'm going to read it real fast for you, hopefully about the whole thing with the Israelites having a connection with Kabbalah. It says, when the Israelites left Egypt, in Mighty Hebrew,
Gang.
Okay.
I'm here.
Step in anytime. If you hear anything, step in anytime, okay?
I'm with you 100%. Absolutely.
Okay. When the Israelites left Egypt, now bear witness the words I'm using, of course, with them, with people who don't understand, as far as Hebrew and certain words. So I'm using basic generic terms. We have to understand there's people that are just new to this site, and so I want to make sure they all understand. And then, I can come back on a later show, and then we can all start using more stronger terminology to express what we're trying to say. BC, they established the Jewish priesthood. The first to hold the position of the head priest was Aaron, Moses' older brother. The priest wore around his neck a golden chain with a rectangular array of 12 squares of precious metals, each symbolizing one of the 12 tribes of Israel. This ceremonial plate, called the Urim V'Tumim, was believed to possess the strong mystical powers. The Urim V'Tumim helped see the Israelites through the 40-year ordeal in the desert. The Israelites used the Urim V'Tumim in the ceremony in which the 10 Commandments were handed down on Mount Sinai. Then he carried it with them throughout the conquest of the Holy Land, finally to place it in the temples of Jerusalem. With the priesthood of Jerusalem, Jewish mysticism was born. Now, obviously, it's not Jewish mysticism. We're talking about the Kabbalah. So what they're saying is that the Israelites left Egypt, they had the Kabbalah. Okay.
So I just want to expound, if possible, real quick. I just want to expound within the Hebrew Israelite culture or the language of Hebrew. There is no direct translation for the word Jew at all. What they did was they just translated the word Jew from Yehuda or Yehowadah, which is Judah. So there's nowhere in the Tanakh or the Old Testament where you get the word Jew, even though in the King James Version, you'll start seeing the word Jew in certain spots when you go to Zechariah as well as the Book of Kings. But if you go into the Ivrit, it actually says Judah. So it would be an insult if one is a Hebrew Israelite from the tribe of Gad and you call him, quote-unquote, a Jew, because that's a form of denationalization. If I'm an Israelite from the tribe of Naphtali, I'm a Naphtaliite. Or if I'm an Israelite from the tribe of Dan, I'm a Danite, et cetera, et cetera. So the true, quote-unquote, Jews, for a lack of terminology, it would be best to say Judite in the English, would be those from the tribe of Judah. And then you also have those from the land of Judea. They start calling all of them Jews. So I just want to make it clear to the family that within the Hebrew Israelite culture, there's no such thing as a Jew. Hallelujah. Go ahead, Doctor.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Okay, I'm going to continue on. Okay, we're going to skip forward. In the 11th century, Spain, the mystic Solomon Abel gave a name to the Jew. Now, we know we just got the science about the name Jew. The Jewish system, the secret mysticism, and Kabbalah, they received the tradition of the Jews. Now, what's obviously false. Now, the reason why I'm reading this is what's followed right now. Now, the first part, that should put the rest of why the Israelites were done with the Kabbalah. There's another part to this, which deals with the Lemurian part, right? But we're not going to get into that today, which also deals with the Sabbath star, okay? But I want to stick to the sacred geometry part, because with Kabbalah, it also deals with healing. So what are we healing, okay? When you deal with the Kabbalah, you're going to hear a certain theme. And that theme, it says that God and humankind are in cosmic exile. When we say God, we're also saying Yahweh, God. That's what I was taught. And now, I'm sure the mighty you can test that. So, again, the language,
Okay.
Right, okay. Now, I'm going to read you the...
No. I thought you wanted me to expound on it, but it's okay. I'm listening.
Okay. Now, according to Kabbalah, right, which is an esoteric Hebrew science coming from esoteric Hebrew priesthood, God contracted himself to make a void in which to create the world, attain his transcendence. Then there followed 10 emanations, the Sephiroth put together form a divine light, revealing God's purpose. But the vessels containing the Sephiroth were not strong enough and were destroyed in a catastrophe such as that. This is the source of both good and evil and is embodied in the fall of Adam. The damage cannot be repaired until the sparks of the divine light are reunited, and until then, God and humankind are in constant exile. Okay? So with that, we're going to look at the vessels containing the Sephiroth are not strong enough for them to destroy and catastrophe. Now, vessels, we're talking, like some type of sphere, some type of. So now we're starting to look at the insertion of what is sacred geometry dealing with Kabbalah or divine mathematics dealing with Kabbalah. So we're going to look at also something called Platonic, which is Plato or Platonic. We're going to look at the different questions that mathematics cause for Kabbalah.
Yes, we're listening.
Okay, just make sure everybody's all well and good.
We here with you, Doc. We here.
Okay. All right. Human beings can have no access to a transcendent Platonic mathematics if it exists a belief in the Platonic mathematics, and therefore a matter of faith, much like religious faith. There can be on scientific evidence for it, for or against the existence of a Platonic mathematics. Platonic mathematics is that atoms, neutrons, are separate from us from a metaphysical perspective, which is not true. But this is where that part that I read about God and man being exiled from each other, that's where the rift begins. Human beings know or can know is therefore a mind-based mathematics, limited in structure by human brains and mind. The only science account of nature of mathematics is therefore an account via cognitive science or human mind-based mathematics, mathematical idea analysis, but as such an account, mathematical ideas analysis shows that human mind-based mathematics uses conceptual metaphors as part of the mathematics itself. Okay, therefore, human mathematics cannot be part of a transcendental Platonic mathematics if such exists. Okay, and for all that said, it goes back to why God and humankind are in constant exile with each other. Now, I'm going to continue on with the book list that I have. Excuse me if I move around and get the books. Okay, the best books on Kabbalah actually aren't even Kabbalah books. Okay, the best book you can get on Kabbalah is called a book called The Beginner's Guide to Constructing the Universe, the Mathematical Archetypes of Nature, Arts, and Science, A Voyage from 1 to 10 by Michael S. Schneider. Now, I'm not tripping on this, you're a Gentile. I mean, they took our science. This is our stuff. Make no mistake about it that the Kabbalah belongs to what you would call the Israelite. Okay? Now, I don't get into the politics of when you say more, because you'll hear certain doctrines that say it came from the Moors, from Lemuria, or it came from the Moors, Muslims, or the Israelites left the Moors. I mean, I don't really get into that. That's on the latter show. We can get on that. But one thing is for sure, though, is that it just showed that there is an Israelite connection to Kabbalah. So I can expound on that more. Mighty Hebrew.
I'm here. Only reason why it takes me a little time because I got it on mute. Just to give a little overview, I wanted to just backtrack just a little bit when we start talking about the word God.
Yes, sir.
Even if you look at the word God, and Zion Lexi brilliantly, decapitated Brother Jabari with this concept of God coming up to the number 26, even in the English language. And when you look at the Ivrit or Lashon HaKodesh, when you look at the name Yahweh, it comes up to the number 26. 6 plus or 2 plus 6 equals 8. 8 defines infinity. So when you talk about Yahweh, say that one more time, good brother.
No, I'm saying 26. You're right, 26. Yes.
Okay. And when you look at Bida Esha or Genesis or Bida Sheet chapter 17, it speaks about the covenant that we made by the way of circumcision, and this is why we circumcise our children on the 8th day, defining our infinitude by the way of the macrocosm, by way of microcosm. So there was an interconnection there. But when we start talking you know, you'll have a lot of people say, well, you know, the word God is dramatic, but in fact, when you study deeper, you'll see that the word God goes back to the ancient Hebrew word God, or some people take it back to Aramaic, but like the brother just said, this ain't really the platform for that. But when you're dealing with these names like Yahweh and other names in the Ivrit, there's a vibration that we build upon to bring forth certain creative realities. So it's very imperative that we understand the power of words, because in Hebrew, word is dibar, which means thing, substance, material, matter. So I'm pretty sure the brother in the future presentation or presentations are getting to that, but he's absolutely correct. Also with the Moorish thing, Israelites, Moors, they're the same people. When we actually start to study the Moorish history, okay, and you start talking about people like Tariq ibn Ziyad, it's a historical fact that Tariq ibn Ziyad was a relative of Queen Khadija, who actually destroyed the Arabs for a period of time, and she was from the tribe of Simeon, and so was Tariq ibn Ziyad. And later on, he, quote-unquote, converted to a form of Islam that developed into Moorish Islam. A good book to read. It gives you a brief synopsis of the Israelite presence during Moorish Spain, or Dark Age Spain, when we ruled in Spain, Portugal, and all throughout Dark Age Europe, will be From Babylon to Timbuktu by Professor Rudolph Yahuda Windsor. And he breaks down with his presentation and research of the Israelite presence during Moorish Spain. As a matter of fact, Israelites was actually up in them areas even before what we know as the Moorish Empire. This is why wherever we went, we would leave our signet. Like Portugal and Spain was one landmass at first called Iberia. Iberia, the root word is Iber or Ibar or Eber, which is the root word for Hebrew. Actual people that lived in them regions were Hebrew people prior to these terminologies that we have today as Moor, etc. But that was the last political stronghold name that we had before the destruction of Grenada. So a lot of Moors today, they identify with that because that was the last name historically that we were being called by the Euro-Gentiles when we was up there in Europe. So there's no debate or argument. When it comes to national origins, the Moors and the Israelites are in fact the same people by the way of the children of Israel. Hallelujah.
Wow. Hey, Dave, that's good to clear up because, you know, that's one of the elephants in the room was which one is which. And one thing we got to start doing now is dealing with unification. I mean, debates is cool and all, but I think it's time now to start to unify, you know, and start putting together systems that will create a better future for our children. You know, me dealing with the youth here in Pittsburgh, what they're saying is that it's like, you know, should I be Christian? Should I be Muslim? Should I be Wahabian? Should I be, you know what I mean, Kemetic? Should I be, you know, one thing about the Kabbalah, nobody can come through the back door. It's a very complex system. You have to be initiate to really study it. And the whole thing of that, if you're a Muslim or if you're like Moor or, you know, those things don't come up. What I'm talking about assumes you're a divine mathematician. Now, understanding that the fact that we understand what the Israelites are through the knowledge, that still doesn't debate the fact because the main divine mathematician that we know is who? It was Abraham. Abraham was a mathematician, you know? So when we talk about divine mathematics, we're not talking from a perspective that has nothing to do with, you know, origin or proceeding. So with that said, I'm going to get back into the book list. Then I'm going to get into how Kabbalah is a system and not necessarily like a mysticism or a science that deals with something other than creating a way that you can understand the origin, the order of the universe, and understand yourself to operate within the universe, okay? So one thing about lectures like these, and I want to say this also, the biggest problem in the community, I think, personally, is that we have too many people, and especially to the mighty Hebrew, couple of weeks ago through text that we have too many people who think they can do what these positions are. Let it be known, I got 21 years being a Kabbalah. You know, I came up through Archaic Set. Now you say, well, how you coming through Archaic Set society with all enough for a man? How in the world can you call yourself a Kabbalist? I came through a Kabbalist both through all different types of sciences, as far as with Archaic Set, with the Hebrew Israelites, and with the gods and earths. You know, the nation of gods and earths. The beauty of that is you're able to see, first of all, with the gods and earths, obviously they do a supreme mathematics, you know, and as well as dealing with Archaic Set and Ron for Amen. Nobody does cosmology and cosmology like Ron for Amen. I'm going to tell you that right now. And I learned a lot. And knowing the Kabbalah now, you understand that it's spread out and scattered all through different sciences. So I'm blessed with the path that the Most High chose for me to take, and I'm glad I did. There's information and books that I have that are out of print that I have on the Kabbalah, which obviously somebody can't share on the radio. But just let it be known that the 21 years, there's information that I have that I can only take through this road. Some of us don't even know what a Kabbalist is. And for me, for somebody to say, well, that's a Kabbalist, for the children to say that's a Kabbalist, that's what divine mathematics looks like, that's what it had to be, you know, and that's the road I had to take. I had to take it for the next generation of my students. They can say, I got taught by a Kabbalist, and that's the one who bounced around. So with that said, I'm going to continue to be bookless, and while I'm digging this book out, I just want to reiterate that not everybody can do what we're doing. You know, not everyone can do what I'm doing. I think one of the biggest problems, like I said, in the community is that there's too many people, like I expressed in my Hebrew as I talk on the subject, but is that everyone wants to be Batman. There's a movie called The Dark Knight Rises, right? In that movie, there was a guy that was dressed like Batman. And yes, Batman, who the guy was playing Batman, Christian Bale, why can't I be Batman? Because I'm not wearing hockey pants, right? So we're saying that you're acting the role, and that should be all the role. And what it's doing is causing confusion in the community of what to study, what to do, what to tell. So if you want to be a teacher of this, come up to Pittsburgh, study Kabbalah, walk me here in Pittsburgh. I'm not going anywhere but here. I'm not going to be on the airways. There's not no YouTube I have because it's sacred. Keep knowledge of self-street. Even though I'm in the classroom, I teach a class called Kabbalah Cosmology at Butler County University, what's called community college. But we have to keep it sacred. You know what I mean? And we have to start, like here in the priesthood we have here in Pittsburgh, not everybody can come in. You can get rejected. You know, if we feel like you're going to waste our time, we feel like you're not going to do what is to be done, you got to have proper health and nutrition. You got to have for well-being that's optimized. You got to really study. I mean, it's studying that you may even imagine, you know. And if you're not willing to do that, then, you know, this ain't for you. Even though it's for everyone, but it's just not for you. So, you know, everybody can be the quarterback. Not everybody can speak like, be on the airways and speak like this. I know a lot of our brothers is mainstream media, like Brother Polite and True Islam. But I think the dangers of that is that everybody wants to be that. I've had a couple brothers come up to me and say that they want to start doing lectures as far as $3,000 a lecture. Like 3 bands a lecture, I mean, the top-notch, you know, teachers don't even get, and that's not what it's about. It's about serving the people, not serving your ego. You know, there's a lot of things I do. I have a free class here in Pittsburgh, and the class deals with knowledge of self, gain Kabbalah through knowledge of self, because the only way you gain knowledge of self is through Kabbalah, because Kabbalah is the only science to teach you your descension and your ascension, which you would call the tree of life, you know. And like I said, I'm not going to get into the tree of life because, like I said, it's been tampered with. As a matter of fact, there's actually 2 trees of life, right? And there's the Metatronic tree of life, where everyone knows. And there's the Crisco-Katharina grid. It's called the Crisco-Katharina grid. And that's actually the mathematical tree of life, which actually technically we're supposed to go by. I personally use both, okay? Let me break that down real fast for you. The Cathara grid, right, or the Khet grid, is the primal mathematical organization of units, consciousness upon the fractal units grouped from morphogenetic fill in scholar grids, okay? I'm just reading your brief synopsis of it. The Metatronic grid, or they call it artificial tree of life, 12 and 8 centers, key grid connection points removed, no connection with the source of finite life, whereas the third grid deals with the manifestation within eternal life, okay? That's just one of the different little battles that go on within Kabbalah that me personally, as being Kabbalah, being on my watch and sorting out for the people. So if somebody goes out to teach it, they don't know what this Katharina grid is, or the Chris code is, or the Metatronic grid, or, the Metatronic tree of life, they're going to be teaching people wrong. And that's why everyone cannot do this.
Okay. Also, I would like to just add in, there's a poster that, we have me and Brother Justin on together dealing with this presentation, which is the Auric Tree of Life. And the way that we describe it at the Mighty Hebrew University is more like an auric envelope, which is the whole aura with reference to both the edge or the extreme range of the auric envelope and the presence of germinal powers, particularly those retained in the immortal vessels of the triple self known as the causal body. This vehicle is more especially symbolized by the arcs of the flood legends throughout the scriptures of the Tanakh and even ancient peoples all over the world, and by boats introduced into other allegorical narratives such as those of the ships built by Orgus and different other people, and even the building of the Vidi Vesterwall, the Puranas of the Brahmins, and upon which Noah's Ark brought forth the miracles, the edge and the sum total of the substance of the seven human bodies, physical and superphysical, and their subtile gradations. So when you look at that tree of life system, and you can see the hexagram in the center as you see it is bringing forth power, because the brother was saying earlier about how you have the one, and then the radiation of light came, and then it broke up, and then you get the Sephiroth. And we know that everything is like in an oval spiral way. And he's correct to break down how there are some tree of life systems out here that's not actually the world tree of life. You have the original tree of life, and that tree of life system that you see on that poster goes back to ancient Lemuria. Then you have some other tree of life systems that go back to, ancient Khet, Babylonia, ancient China, Tibet, et cetera, et cetera. All nations had a form of Kabbalistic institution. A good book to read on it, and as a matter of fact, I prepared myself for this because I knew that the brother was going to come with heat, and he also has this book as well. Dr. Justin, I'm pretty sure you have the book called The Secret Doctrine of the Kabbalah, correct? Recovering the Hebraic Sacred Science.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know you got that in there because I seen it. I seen that you had a picture of it, so I'm pretty sure. And like when you open up the introduction, it gives a brief history of the Hebraic priestly tradition. And what the brother is saying is absolutely correct. This information is sacred. When we build at the Mighty Hebrew University, understanding archaic Hebrew symbolism, I gave a 5-part introduction on YouTube for free for the people, but the classes are private because these are sacred sciences that are not meant to be given into the world. And I would like to just read something real fast, if it's okay with you, Dr. Justin, real fast, and then you can go on with your presentation, because you speaking on about secrecy. And a lot of people look at that like, oh, what are y'all in some type of secret society, et cetera, when in fact that is not the case. There's a good book to get, but right now people can only get the revised one. I actually got the original one, and it's called The Hidden Wisdom in the Holy Bible by Godfrey Hudson. He was a part of the Theosophical Society, a very excellent book to get. So I'm going to get into something that he breaks down dealing with secrecy and why secrecy is important, because when you give out too much to the people, you can actually destroy them if they don't know what they're doing. Okay, so it wasn't a thing that we're trying, or it isn't a thing that we're trying to hide something, but it's very important to understand the pinnacle of seriousness when you're dealing with this type of information. And all the nations of the earth, or may I say more or less those that are in power, understand the Kabbalistic secrets. Many of these people that are running this world are Kabbalists, but they may be dealing with it on another, area. But I'm going to read something to y'all real fast. I just found it. Okay. So we in a part called, let me make sure I'm at the right place where I need to be. Okay, not the birth of Isaac. Just give me a second. Okay, there we go. So now, all right, Egypt symbolic.
So after you finish saying that,
okay, I found
let's
it.
go to the switchboard. When you finish breaking that down, we're going to move over to the switchboard because I see some callers there.
Absolutely. So chapter 1,
okay.
The origin of the Shemitic people, we're going to drop down to the reasons for secrecy. It says the Hebrew Israelite of that brotherhood cannot, I repeat, justly be charged with undue secrecy, at least of all which selfishness in guarding the knowledge which is power. The destruction of the whole human race could be brought about by the appropriate means, nuclear energy. For example, lesser cataclysms could also be produced by those who are informed. The destruction of the human will directed by a mind armed with the necessary knowledge is almost without limit, and this is the chief reason for secrecy. Injuries, though such devices can be, their effects are limited to the physical world. Ancient Hebrew Israelite occult knowledge, however, which can include equal and even greater possibilities for construction and destruction, capacities for injury affecting the superphysical planes of nature. If harmfully used, the damage would penetrate into and affect the psyche of man, not only for one physical incarnation, but even extending to its successors. Sorcery, necromancy, mental and emotional domination, and enslavement are examples of the damage which could be, and indeed has been, brought about by these means. Hence, the need for secrecy. Actually, humanity has every reason to be grateful to, rather than to indict the members of the Hebrew Israelite nation, divine priesthood of the adapts, for the care with which such knowledge has been guarded. An occultist or a Hebrew Israelite in the white/conscious order can inspire, illuminate, and heal both individuals and whole communities. So great are the natural forces available when once the means of tapping them and using them having been discovered. Similarly, a Hebrew Israelite that is dealing with the dark forces or the dark order can both mentally blind and physically destroy individuals and communities, as has several times become evident during this 20th century. He or she who would first win knowledge and then rightfully employ it must therefore range him or herself upon the side of those who, with self burned out on of them, live by to serve humanity and obey the one who in nature, Yahweh, which ever moves to assist the emanation of the human race. This, it has always been taught, is the spirit in which should be approached to the Tanakh and all scriptures of the world. Hallelujah.
Okay.
There was a reason originally for secrecy, because you can't give anybody just anything. It'd be total chaos and anarchism. So Dr. Justin is correct 100% on what he's saying, and I'm passing it back on to him. Hallelujah.
Okay. I think the sister said she wanted to reach the switchboard. If I can, well, first, if you want to go to the switchboard, I think questions are more important. If people have questions, then I can go back to what I wrote and what I was going to give, the presentation I was going to give. But the questions are more important from the people, so if you want to just go straight ahead to that.
Okay, David, I think 240.
Okay, 240.
979.
Two 240-979. You are live. They never did just.
All right. Well, let's see if 203-974.
All right.
I'm here. Shalom to the family.
Who's this? Heaven Razor.
Kane.
Oh, hell,
What's going on?
King's fans.
And not missing my family, man. This is incredible. I swear, I sit there and my eyes is like
Peace
all
and
over
blessings.
the place. For real, the brother, heavy tonight. Ooh. And he was touching on some good subjects too. And then by the Hebrew tag there, this is awesome. And,
we just getting, hey bro, we just getting started. You know what I mean? So
this is real radio talk, for real. For real.
When
you was talking about
he's just gonna continue
about
on.
the ephods. Was you talking about the ephods that the priesthoods wear? But you said the priesthoods, right? The Jewish priesthoods? With the ephods with the Jews on it, 12 Jews on it?
No, I'm sorry.
Who said that? Mighty Hebrew?
I think, wait, what's my name that's breaking it down?
You talking?
The teacher of the class. What's his name?
Are you talking about Dr. Justin? Yeah, he was
Dr.
about.
What's his name? Dr. what?
Dr. Justin
Blaze.
Holy Blaze.
They call me Holy Blaze. Yeah, they call me Holy Blaze. Dr. J. Holy Blaze. Holy Blaze. Yes, sir.
He was asking you. So you'll know who you talking to, Dr. Justin. You actually talking to Wu-Tang rapper Hellraiser.
Dr. Justin.
Oh, okay. Shalom.
Yeah, man. So, right.
Shalom
So
to the family, man.
So what he asking is about the I think the Urim, the Turim, the Urim and the Turim. That's what he was asking you about.
Yes, the Urim and the Thummim.
Right, that's what he was asking you about.
Because that's what Aaron and the priesthoods of the family was, the Levites was carrying that. And the Urim and Thummim. Because they try to say try to make you say like it was magical. It wasn't magical, but we did have the same way today they have a nuclear power weapon. That's what we had back then too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We had nuclear weapons. I'm even thinking, so just from studying, I'm even thinking the Ark of the Covenant was a nuclear weapon, man. For real.
Well, that's
everywhere it go, everywhere it went. See, they took it. Moses got it back. Who restored it? Lot. I think he gave it to Solomon. And then Solomon built the whole temple.
The first Solomon temple.
Yeah, he built it to protect it from the other nations stealing it. Solomon's temple was pretty much a defense area to keep people from stealing from us.
Right.
And they did it. They threw it in our face with the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark because they kept stealing from us. They kept taking out. They're like, if we take their nuclear power, they ain't got no wins.
And you mentioned Raiders of the Lost Ark. If you remember the first Captain America movie, The Red Skull, what was he searching for? He was searching for the cube.
The cube.
In the first Captain America movie.
Okay.
The cube represents Kabbalah. Kabbalah means cube. So, you know what I mean? So, it's interconnecting. So, yeah.
So now you just connected something that was always blinking. I was like, I wonder if that connects there. Yeah, because over there, they over there now. Where they at over there? Ishmael's still doing that stone over there, that cube over there. That's a stone they.
You talking about the Kaaba?
Okay.
Kaaba, right?
But even when you deal with the Kaaba rock itself, I'm saying when you're dealing with Hebrew gematria, you can break that down, and there's science behind that as well. Even though as time went on, that was distorted. A good book to read on that for the family, and then we're going to give it back to Dr. Justin. It's actually 3 good books y'all can get, and they're called, let me get them so y'all know. Okay, I got them right here. And Dr. Justin just mentioned the name of the brother. He wrote 3 good books, I think, that the family are like by True Islam. One of them is called Black Arabia and the African Origins of Islam. And he gets heavy into the science behind the Kaaba stone. Also, he wrote another book called The Book of God, an encyclopedia of proof that the black man is God. That's a good book. And you have another book called The Truth of God, the Bible, the Quran, and the Secret of the Black God. So them 3 books is very imperative to have, and they give you the sciences of the Kaaba, the Kaaba. You know, and then when you start breaking down the black stone, you know, you'll see what that's dealing with as well, but I'm not going to get into that. But Kaaba, as well as Kabbalah, all that has an interconnection when you start dealing with etymology. That's all I wanted to say. But I'm going to give it back to Dr. Justin so he can continue his presentation.
Well, yeah, indeed. That's but also, when we talk about the Kaaba, also we're talking about what? Let's talk about hexagram in the 3-dimensional form. And so now we're starting to get back to sacred geometry, or sacred mathematics, which is Kabbalah is. And for the Israelites, a lot of them get tossed underneath the Christmas tree with a bow wrapped around them is because they don't understand the science of what the sacred geometry is pertaining to the Kabbalah, pertaining to the Torah, and the so-called Bible. So if we understand that there's a mathematical expression within these books, then it would be easier for people not to get, say, for instance, they say it's an allegory or it's like, you know, a metaphor or whatnot. And that's where it comes back. I want to actually lead you back to the point I made earlier about people just, you know, freelance, not freeloaders, but freelancers, like people who are just in this just to look smart or to impress people with this knowledge. We're hurting the people. You know, just to throw something, like, for instance, I texted Mighty Hebrews, like, somebody, the new thing now is that Yahweh means the DNA strand, right? Like, it's connected to the DNA strand, which may be correct, but that's a blank statement without having an etymology, chronology, cosmology, or some type of correlation to what that means. It's just a blank statement throwing it out into the public. That's useless. That serves nobody. You know what I mean? Maybe true or maybe not, but at the same time, if you don't have anything that backs it up, it's just a blank statement. Now, we have too many people who want to be scholars, who wants to put this information out like that, and it's just messing up everything. You know what I mean? For the people, I have too many people just confused. You know what I mean? It's like, so what if this don't mean that? I say, look, if this person doesn't have 10-plus years on them studying a specific science, you need not to listen to them. You know what I mean? I got 21. I think the Mighty Hebrew, you got 20-plus. I'm just going to say it right now. If you ain't got 20-plus in your science, you shouldn't be speaking on it. Keep it to yourself, you know. And so with that said, I'm going to get into the book list because I think that's the most important thing for people to do their own research. And I'll make it real fast because I want to get back into sacred geometry, which I want to definitely one of the main things I want to talk about. All right, the first book I'm going to get, these are books that you can actually get Don't go to Barnes & Nobles and try to get Kabbalah books. They have absolutely nothing. Secondhand bookstores online may help you, but if you see it, get it. Do not hesitate because they're going fast. You know, these hippies, these pseudo-hippies, you know, people who just want to look smart and intelligent, they're bottling them up, and a lot of these universities are taking them as well. So when you see them, get it. The first one is The Tree of Life, an illustrated study in magic by Israel Regardie. This book is just like, that's easy. About that. Philip S. Bird, Dr. Philip S. Bird, The Power of the Alphabet, Volume 1 and 2. I'm going to go through this pretty quick. Kabbalah for Health and Wellness by Mark Stavin. Okay. Shamans, Healers, and Medicine Men by Holger Kalkwet. I'm going to throw this in here. I mean, everybody's probably heard of it, but I'm still going to mention it. The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, Volume 1 and 2 by Geraldo Chesedek. I mean, the beginning parts, but this one is a must get. The New Millennium Magic, A Quick System of Self-Realization by Donald Tyson. Now, self-realization is key to Kabbalah because the whole goal of Kabbalah is to understand what true love is, or Shekinah, per se. Like the Shekinah you represent is what is Kundalini in Hinduism, right? So when we say Shekinah, like when you do the Sabbath, that's the day that Shekinah rises in you, know what I mean? When it rises in you, it gives you something called equivalency, which is like a balance, right? So you're not like a walking roller coaster. So the whole goal of Kabbalah is complete balance, you know what I mean? To live a life worth living that goes beyond space, time, and human thought, to see beyond the beyond, and go beyond from within. Because the tree of life, the so-called tree of life with us, it's within you. If that's something outside you, like for instance, you'll see pictures of the tree of life sometimes above the earth, and it's like glowing above the earth. Okay, the earth represents Malkuth, okay, or the kingdom. This is the kingdom. They say the kingdom of God is within you as above below. Okay, so another book to get that's good is you can get at Barnes & Noble. It's called Kabbalah for Dummies by author Kurzweil. Excellent book. Another one that I'm going to connect to another time is called The 777, Another Kabbalistic Writings of Aleister Crowley. Another book is a book, The Kemetic Tree of Life, The Ancient Egyptian Metaphysics Cosmology for Higher Consciousness by Martha Ashby. The Everything Kabbalah book by Mark Elber. And the most important book that you get Kabbalah is called, not even Kabbalah book, it's called Where Mathematics Come From by George Lakoff and Raphael Nunez. Okay. Now, anybody have any questions on the book list, I'll leave my math, and you can call me or you can contact me on social media, and I can go over everything once again. Next book is Kabbalah Inspiration by Jeremy Rosen. The Kabbalah Handbook, the Encyclopedia of Terms and Conceptions in Jewish Mysticism. Obviously, we know it's not Jewish mysticism. Hebrew Esoteric Priesthood. The Personal Kabbalah by Penny Cohen, LCSW. Okay. Now, let's get into what we call so-called sacred geometry. Okay. Kabbalah is based in mathematics. Grand opening, grand close. There's no debate that. Okay, but it's based within sacred geometry. If you have the book, brother, book by the Lambert, The Secret Doctrine of Kabbalah, correct?
What was the last one? Secret Doctrine of what?
Yes, I got the Secret Doctrine of the Kabbalah. Yes, I do.
Okay. In that book, she talks about the Sabbath star, and she talks about Kabbalistic geometry. Right?
Okay, that's true.
Okay, now, that's true. Okay, so we're going to go into this right now. Now, the flower of life and the seed of life are nothing but the special pieces. Also looking at this book, you will see that every line in the tree of life is either a length or a width of the rest of the pieces. We'll go past that. But the nature of sacred geometry is that it's absolutely flawless, like the iron. We're talking about the iron soap. When you get the iron soap, it's iron soap fur. The iron is nothingness in itself, which will be in Hinduism Adi Shakti. It should be called Adi Shakti, which is not. No, the feminists will take something like that because it's seen as a mother and say that it's higher than man or something that's, like because Adi Shakti created Brahma. That is true, but it's not on the fact of, first of all, when you talk about the mother, and I guess another topic that we'll talk about another day is the black woman being God. That's actually incorrect. The black woman is the mother of civilization, and I think that's disrespectful when people say the black woman is God because she is the mother. But when you deal with the mother, is it. People deal with Shakti cosmology, understand that the mother is it. It has no form. That's dealing with the iron, because iron represents iron soul fur. Kind of like when you deal with the Christian text, it would be like father, mother, child, but for that text it's father. But it's misinterpreted about the mother and what's actually the mother actually means. But that's for a later date. The nature of sacred geometry is absolutely flawless. There are no accidents. It continues to unfold until the entire universe is created. Every single part of it. Like the reality that mirrors it is interlinked with everything else. You can start at any point and generate the whole language of creation. All the things taught, what they call actually to but taught to Jordan, we consider the knowledge of sacred geometry to be the most significant. It might be difficult for us to perceive of geometry as being the base of creation, but this is simply how things are. There is nothing on any level of existence whatsoever that doesn't have geometry behind it. To understand how actually geometry works is a crucial step in convincing our rational minds of the reality of the one spirit that moves through everything. Okay? That actually, if we want to go back to the point I made earlier about God and man being cosmic exile, the fact is that God made cosmic exile because we then is what is actually connected to, like the love of God, quote unquote, the love of what God is, and the love of ourselves or broken. So with Kabbalah, we deal with the healing process, which you give the Shekinah, you know what I mean, which you give the Shekinah glory, okay? Another point I'm going to make, and I'm going to reveal publicly to the people about Kabbalah, is something called the shamanics, okay? What you call the shamanics, right? Not the shamanic, no, people think of shamanics, you think of the people who be on drums, who wear your neighbor's cat on top of their head. I'm not talking about the shamanics. I'm talking about the people who were divine mathematicians from Lemuria, which you start getting to the swastika and the science of the swastika was actually the chakra system. Because we're dealing with the tree of life. With the chakra, there's actually one chakra. When you deal with Matakia, he talks about there's one chakra system. Is the or shamans that I'm talking about are not the ones from, that came from over the mountains, and, that beat on drums and whatnot. I'm talking about the shamans of Lemuria that dealt with mathematics, divine mathematics. And so I'm going to read you something that deals with the shamanic cosmic orbital, right? Kabbalah is born out of shamanic. And the reason, that's why I said that it's not what you think. So you have to you have to let go of what you think is shamanic to being. Okay? We showed you, proved to you what Israelites are and its connection to Kabbalah. Now we're showing and proving what Kabbalah is connected to shamanics. Shamanics is divine mathematics in itself. Okay? It deals with sacred geometry. Okay? So, to reconnect the directions of the lightning flash from the original unmanifest and unknowable Godhead, in turn, cleanse of the body, reconnect heaven and mind and body in perfect harmony. And that's what shamanic cosmic orbital is. So it's about mind, heaven, and body being on the same page with each other. That also, just to add on, deals with the fact that all healing processes, whether it's like massage therapy, Reiki, Rastafari, what you call Reiki, prana healing, et cetera, all stem from shamanics, but also stem from Kabbalah. Okay? You cannot call yourself a healer of some sort and not be accomplished because you understand the science of the grand being. You don't know how the grand being operates, and you cannot bring heaven, mind, and body on the same page. You cannot bring proper healing to that individual. Okay?
And that's deep that you're giving the people this, and I've been expounding for years that the ancient Hebrews can trace their information going back to the Indus Valley, and today they have people in India today that still practice this form of shamanism today.
Right. I can't find the book. There's actually a book that deals with the Hebrew Israelites actually being in. Because remember when Egypt was falling, a lot of information that was ours traveled into India, in that region. And so that's why you cannot throw the baby off the bathwater. And other people are like, why are you talking about, Hinduism on a Kabbalah show? You cannot point at one aspect. It's scattered all over. And once you understand the Kabbalah, this mathematical term, then you're able to deal with it. Now, there'll be a point in time that we can deal with it as far as, like you said, like geometry or whatnot. But right now, we're just giving a basic breakdown of what it is and then going from there. Because right now, what I like to do is get into, I know a lot of my students are listening, I know a lot of people back home in Pittsburgh are listening, and I always mention it being a meta-system and not being like mysticism and whatnot and the same. So I'm going to break down a couple aspects. I'm looking at both. I'm going to start with this one. How's everybody feel? Everyone good?
You're doing excellent. The people are loving it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just, just making sure. There's a lot of information at one time. So, okay, let's go. Okay, Kabbalah. Hebrew word meaning tradition is derived from the root word Kabbal, meaning to receive. This refers to the ancient custom of handing down esoteric knowledge by oral transmission. What the word Kabbalah encompasses is an entire body of ancient Hebrew mystic sacred mathematical principles that are the cornerstone and focus of the Western esoteric tradition. Okay? Kabbalah comes from the Hebrew letters Quoth and La. Actually, that's what we're supposed to be saying. We're supposed to be saying Quoth and La instead of Kabbalah. Many of these people are Islamic, right? But Quoth and La is the actual word, because when you're saying Kabbalah, you're saying Ka and Allah, right? That's why you see a lot of people in, I can't say the doctrine here, but a lot of the Nation of Islam has a doctrine where they say that Kabbalah is the Ka and Allah, which is fine, but we want to deal with the more mathematical version of, and when we deal with mathematics, we're dealing with the Hebrew version, right? So I'm going to piggyback to a statement here that deals with the Hebrew language. Hebrew language is thus not a connection to Judaism. Like the Aramaic languages, Hebrew is a universal ancient language and is considered to be the oldest, most continuously used, unchanged language there is. In Kabbalah, the Hebrew letters represent different forms of energy in the universe. Kabbalah sees them as conduits of God's energies by meditating on the sounds, shapes, and mystical meanings. It is possible to bring on power for healing, wisdom, and love. Now, there's the shamanic aspect of this, okay? You don't have to memorize the Hebrew or even know the Medrash. That's ridiculous. You have to know. That's another thing. You have to know Hebrew. You know what I mean? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, you have to know what Hebrew is. Like, that's equivalent to saying that you want to do pizza, like you want to make pizzas, right? But you don't mess with dough. You know what I mean? Like, how you going to make pizza?
Right.
It's not going to happen,
man. You're funny.
Hey, I got jokes, no doubt. But you have to learn Hebrew. I know it's difficult, but that goes sense. We have brothers and sisters, especially here in Pittsburgh, that we're going to be well versed in Kabbalah as far as the old Kabbalah, old Hebrew as well as new Hebrew, knowing the differences. I have a lot of books on Hebrew, and to get people who need to get them where they need to go. It's not as difficult as people make it seem. Like in anything in life, it's only difficult as much as you make it to be. Okay? All right. It means to accept or receive in tradition. Okay, the Quoth and La. Okay? When translated, it literally means to accept or to receive tradition. Kabbalah refers to a mystical branch of Judaism, which is incorrect, that traces its roots to the very beginning of creation. But it was committed to writing in books such as the Zohar during the Middle Ages. This work was published in the early 14th century Spain by Moses Leon, which is incorrect as well, to the Rabbi Simeon Banyas, who lived in the 2nd century CE. Many believe it to be a compilation of various streams of thought and teachings, and not the work of one man. The Zohar is a mystical commentary on equal in holiness to the Talmud. Okay? Mighty Hebrew, you want to speak on that?
How did I know you was going to do that? Yeah, so he said, see, that's the thing that they're doing. A lot of history books, when they start talking about when we was in Spain, the so-called Jews in Spain, they're talking about the Israelites that were in Spain at the time, and it was two branches, those that practiced a form of Islamic mysticism, and then you had those that still upheld the Hebrew culture. Again, there's a chapter inside the book From Babylon to Timbuktu called the Moorish Empire, and in that it gives you the names of the Israelite scholars that was actually in Spain that gave Spain actually, as well as Europe, the modern day sciences of today, or the foundation of the Enlightened Age came from Israelites that was ruling in Spain and in Europe, and other parts of Europe. And later on in 1492, when Grenada was, broken up, many of the Israelites, they exiled to the island of Santam off the west coast of Africa. And later on, they start mixing with the Israelites in Angola. And you can go there today and still see presence of these Israelites today that still exists over there, as well as on some of the islands like Jamaica, Barbados, et cetera, et cetera. So when the Moorish Empire was destroyed, technically speaking, that was an Israelite empire that was destroyed that had sacred sciences behind the, if you want to call it, the religion of Islam. But it's a known fact that the teachings of the Kabbalah or the Zohar go back way before even these people start writing this information down. As the brother just read, it says it goes back to creation. I want to make a correction on that. In Hebrew Israelite culture, as well as if you're dealing with what we're dealing with as being Kabbalists, there's no such thing as creation, only emanation. When you read inside the Torah, it says in Ivrit Bereshit, meaning beginnings. So there is no beginning nor ending. It's just a continuous cycle. Every 24 to 25,000 years, we renewed our cycle. So when you talk about that 6,000-year history of quote-unquote Adam, that is only the history of when those that took control and power that starts to outline their history. But the records that we go back to, at least at the Mighty Hebrew University, we deal with what is known as the stanza of the Zion records from out of ancient India going back to 311 trillion, 40 billion years ago. So we know that there's information out there that's before what we know the story of Adam based on from the European perspective. And last, but without, giving up too much information, I just want to let the family know that the word Adam doesn't mean man. The word man goes back to the ancient Sanskrit word menu, which means thought or to think. The word Adam means firstborn or first blood. So in that understanding, Adam had the basic male and female polarities. It was an asexual androgynistic being. And as time went on in the deep sleep, Adam now becomes separated into male and female. That's another story, another topic, which I teach that transpired roughly 34 million years ago. But that's another story, another topic. But the brother is on point. I'm Dr. J, I'm enjoying this presentation. I ain't gonna lie to you. I got my organic popcorn here, some organic ginger ale, and I keep putting it on mute because I keep stuffing my face while I'm listening to this presentation. I'm giving it up to you, but again, Kabbalah did not start, by those authors that are being said. Only thing they did was reiterate, just like the Torah didn't actually come from Moses. It's just a reiteration of what already existed. Hallelujah.
Indeed. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So what I want to do right now is go into the 5 principal issues that Kabbalah deals with. Deals with the nature of God. Yahweh, God is described as the eternal. In Hebrew, the Ein Sof, the endless. It actually creates the world instead of all forms of life, both above and below. The plane we experience are emanations, just like he spoke, from and so. So just right on time, just went right into it. The creation of the universe, the destiny of humanity, the nature of evil, the meaning of the Bible. As I said before, you can only gain knowledge of self through Kabbalah, right? Because we, as a Kabbalah, you're the only ones to deal with these issues because we are the origin of what life is itself to be. Okay? Knowing, okay? As far as explaining what life is, who and what and why, there's already, who you are, et cetera, et cetera. You know, the question is that the public wants to know. You know what I mean? We're living in an age, we live in an age of right now that's very fast-paced and impatient. It's a godless society. Any society is a self-sufficient society. Any self-sufficient society is godless, right? And so now is any time than ever. It's a time that we need to get back into our study. They say keep calm and study Kabbalah. It means go back into the science of sacred geometry. You know, I'm going to read you one more thing and a couple more things, and we're going to get into the science of the meta system. Now, as we said, we go by the meta system and at the Christie Code or the Katrina Grid. That has to be another topic for another day. But we're getting deeper into mathematics, but we're starting to get into Kabbalah cosmogony, which is deep, which is the tire to the rose, as you say. We really want to be a lot of things. The one thing I want to say also, the things that I cannot expose on the phone are things that deal with the cosmogony of Kabbalah, okay? Which that starts to deal with the number, the numerical expression, as far as the symbols and whatnot, and the means. It's just too. People will misinterpret it. People will take it sometimes and utilize it in a way that's best. You know what I mean? I'd rather have something like that in a class, not an issue. And what the Kabbalah I'm speaking now is more of the practical Kabbalah, more of like the unwritten Kabbalah. You know, it has little aspects to it. That's why you have, like, again, I cannot reiterate that enough. That in order to learn this science, it has to come from somebody with Kabbalah. You know, so it's the stuff that's been exposed. Like on, I think the best build I've seen in the Kabbalah, as far as coming from the community, the conscious community, had to be Dr. Phil Valentine. He has something on YouTube called The Tree of Life, where he breaks down the number 4. And I used 4 planes in the Stefan. He did a good job. There's another brother that was around. I'm not sure if he's around. His name is a.k.a. Rashid. He dealt with the Kabbalah. His work was good. But I think with moving forward with this particular science, we need to have somebody, and no disrespect to them, I'm saying nothing against them or anything, or anybody who does study Kabbalah, and the cultists. I think Brother Panic mentioned Kabbalah a few times. Nothing against them. It's good that you just hear it from someone who is steeped into Kabbalah studies and this and that. And we're doing that moving forward. Brothers and sisters, I just want to say, like, this is a marvelous time. You know, it's just like seeing lions walk down the street, you know, freely. You know what I mean? Like, it's a time for celebration. This science has come home. And I'm sitting here now. You know, I want to tell everyone everything, but I can't. There's some things, you know, going through and it's not. So I would advise everyone, you know, get with this science. It's where knowledge itself lay. It's where self-realization lay. It's where self-awareness lay. It's where all that lay. So right now I'm going to go into gematria, but then I'm going to get into why it's a system rather than like a mysticism system. Okay? All right, gematria from the Greek geometry, not as Ginsburg and after him, masters wanted to assert from written character. In the narrower sense used here is the rule by which the word or group of words is given meaning according to the total numerical value of the letters involved. One word may be linked with another. Now you're seeing what I mean with Kabbalah is cosmogony. That's when you get into the cosmogony and Kabbalah, which I'm about to explain too. And I'm trying to move a little bit faster. I know the time is kind of short. Meaning according to the total numerical value of the letters involved. One word may be linked with another that has the same value. For example, the name of the angel Metatron and the name of God, Shaddai, each total 314. One probabilistically stands for the other by the system of geometry. This is considered to explain Exodus 23:21 in the same manner as a phrase may be made to stand for a word, or a word for a phrase, or a phrase for a phrase, provided that the numerical totals are equal. Okay? Now you see why we have to, move forward in that. There's also something called I don't think I'm going to get into that. I think we'll get off the track.
Yeah, that right there, I don't think that's for the general public right there. I think you should skip over that and continue. We see where it's going.
Okay, all right, yeah, we're going to leave that one alone. Okay, now let's get into the meta system. Kabbalah is a meta system and a system of meta knowledge. It assists in the organization of other religions. One thing about occult systems, I gotta exit out of the occult thing, because when you deal with the occult, I don't like what's going on with that. You know what I mean? You're dealing with, like, for instance, people use the tarot and magic. It's out of control. Now, it's people are calling the Kabbalah like a satanic rituals and stuff, and I think that's because we allow occult science to be called an occult science instead of something that's like of sacred geometry. You see what I'm saying?
And it's deep that you're saying that. And what people fail to understand is when you actually study ancient Ivrit or ancient Hebrew, when we understand the language of vibration, that even those that deal with dark forces, they're going to use the same language to deal with the dark forces. So in their mind, anything that they see or imagine, such as a hexagram or a pictogram, they think that it's a cult, when the word cult goes back to cultus, which only means culture. So our people, they've been so brainwashed because they're in a world that deals in the realm of the dark side of the force right now. So they can't picture pointed shield of Dawayah or the six-pointed shield as dealing in sacred DNA helix geometry. They don't understand that. So in their mind, it's all occult, when in fact the word cult itself isn't even a bad word when you study the etymology. In essence, as Hebrew Israelites, we are in a cult because the word cult only means culture. It goes back to the Greek word cultus, which only means culture. But because the stereotype, behind it, I purposely, when I, take pictures, I use certain signs with my hands to try to break the spell. The first thing they're like, oh, he's in the Illuminati. And even when you're dealing with that terminology and we start to study the essence of the Great White Brotherhood, which only means the Great Enlightened Brotherhood, then we understand that, Illuminati only means illuminated ones. In essence, the children of Israel is the true Illuminati. They're supposed to be the enlightened ones to the nations of the earth, but they fell short, and those that are the evil forces, the different families, I ain't going to go there. We all know who they are. The Rockefellers, DuPont, the Rothschilds, all that. We know that they're just copycatting, but in a negative way, what the children of Israel supposed to have done. So I'm with you, Dr. J. That word has manifested a negative connotation amongst Kabbalists like me, yourself, and even others that may not say openly they're Kabbalists, but any true Kabbalist that reads certain information can clearly see that the people or the person that's writing the information are Kabbalists.
Yeah, because now we have, with Kabbalah, the issue we have now is the pagans. Like I said, it's been bounced around in certain schools of thought. Now we have the pagans dealing with Kabbalah. Now we're saying, like I said, so now it's like a demonic ritual. I think it was Demi Moore. They said that she did a Kabbalah sacred ritual, and that's not true. And that's not something I prescribe to. I don't prescribe to the Lambert Tree of Life. I don't prescribe to any of those. It's just like that's another discussion before another show. with the tree of life. I haven't noticed the whole subject. I haven't even, spout on it, but they have a tree of life and the numeric tree of life, because you have to understand. People don't even know the shapes of figures. They start to get into that. And even with, like I said before, even with those tree of life or the Austrian, those are distorted, different society. I know the Freemasons have put out a tree of life, which you see that's distorted. If you go to the Ancient Order of Free Asiatics with Prince Namor, I hope I pronounced the brother's name right, he drops some signs that heart is switched with Nigist. I can pull it up right now. It's right here. Maybe I have it. Maybe I don't. Yeah, here it is right here. He said that, right, here we go. Okay, now what he said, I didn't want to get into the tree. I'm going to briefly get on this. He said that Nizar, which is called Nizar, which is the proper name, in heart, we know it's heart being 8 and Nizar being off. No, I'm sorry, I'm reading off my screen. Right. Okay, now, heart was supposed to be where the Nizar is supposed to be where heart is, and Nizar is supposed to be, wait, hold on, I'm reading off my screen, apologize. Where heart is to the left, right, because it goes Banah, Jabra, and heart. That's incorrect. According to his research, it goes Banah, Jabra, and Nizar. That's supposed to be correct spell. That alone, I ain't even going any further with that. That alone is enough to say, okay, back off. There's actually a tree of life also, which I mentioned before, but there's another tree of life that deals with self-realization, which you just deal with the top 4 spheres. The top 2 spheres, and then you cut it off, and then it deals with the Malkuf. Because remember, the Malkuf and the Kepler is one. Also remember that the Daf is supposed to be where the Kepler is. You see what I'm saying? Then we didn't even get into the 22 pathways. Because the 22 pathways, if you don't understand the geometry, you're not going to understand the cubes, that there's actually 3 cubes that sit in the tree of life. Okay? But with those cubes, they're actually curtain. Right. Okay. So that to get too deep in, in the tree of life, because that's a whole another subject. But this another is distorted. So I don't get into, even in my class, I have the tree of life that I go by is the self-realization tree, and I deal with the Metatronic, which I'm talking about now, and the Christic code, and the Katrina grid, and the more or less the misinterpretation of the two. You see what I'm saying? So if I would tell people now who's dealing with the Kabbalah to try to stay clear of the tree of life until, you get the proper education on Freemasonry, per se, and other these other secret societies. Once you learn them, and I haven't talked to the brother about this. That's one of my to-dos list, but that's enough for me to say this is the back way. Personally, I never dealt with the tree, and even when you get into Kabbalistic cosmogony, you remove the names out of where they are in the Sephiroth points. You move the trees out, and you just look at it. It's more as an equation. You see what I'm saying? So it's a numerical tree of life as well that fits inside of the tree. So you can see how complicated and how fast you get complicated. The part I'm about to read now will help people understand the basic format of what Kabbalah is before. What I'm reading right now will be considered kindergarten. The tree of life, like I said before, we consider graduate school, okay, because there's different parts, and different interpretation, et cetera, et cetera. Not even clear the misinterpretation, but understanding the pathway, okay, and the proper land of the pathway. So, Kabbalah is a meta system and a system of meta knowledge. It assists in the organization of other religious, spiritual, and occult systems, as you said earlier, and reveals the relationship between those different systems. Meta knowledge is a form of abstracted knowledge that gives meaning and definition to other attributes of knowledge about knowledge. So basically, it's like a tree within. If you look on the tree of life, which I'm going to go back briefly on, there's a Sephiroth within the Sephiroth. You know what I mean? So you'll see, like, the Sephiroth, and you'll see other Sephiroths pull off of it. Like, and then you also see the Jacob's Ladder, which you'll see the 10 emanations, and then you'll see another tree that comes down. Okay? So that's why again, I got to reiterate, for people who are studying, I know a lot of people on here studying it, I would first, everything I've said up to this point has been based in just the mathematical terminology of what's that. I would deal with that first, right? Then I would get a guide. You can talk to them about Hebrew, you can talk to me, and get it the correct, understanding of Kabbalah in its form of sacred geometry and divine mathematics before you get into the tree of life. Because that's where a lot of confusion with Kabbalah. Me studying and me over the years have run into with students of mine now. They're like, well, I thought but now it's supposed to be this. No. First, learn your shapes. First, learn numbers and shapes. Phil Valentine said something interesting in the lecture he did. He said that numbers actually have life to them. They're not just entrapment in them. They actually have life into them. You're actually pulsing, and that's exactly what your chakras do. They don't spin; they actually pulsing. Okay. So,
and for the family, so they just know briefly, when you're dealing with the Hebrew language, our language is also our numbers as well.
Mm-hmm. Hey. Wow. Okay. All right. So it's the knowledge of reality of the self and the world in which it exists. This is called ontology, the study of reality, which is Kabbalah 101. Ontology is like the father of Kabbalah, right? The mother would be obviously mathematics, okay? This meta-system and meta-knowledge are represented by what is known as the tables or correspondence, where the attributes of Kabbalah are compared to the attributes of every conceivable category in any spiritual, occult, or religious system. Stop right there. Okay, let's stop right there. Where it says any spiritual, occult, or religious systems, you put insert divine mathematics. Okay? Enough of the religious, spooky, the sheet over somebody's head walking down the street, enough. Okay? What religion is supposed to be is what Kabbalah is. That's what religion is supposed to be. Okay? The word religion is not to control. The word religion is to honor something sacred. And that's what Kabbalah is, something that is sacred and it has to be honored. That's why we can't just allow anybody to the front door. And you can't come to anybody in the front door because of how complicated it is. Just like the 2 hours that we're speaking about it, I'm sure some people are still kind of fuzzy about it. But that's how deep it is. And this is just kindergarten. You know what I mean? I still ain't getting to cosmology. I still ain't getting cosmos. We're not going to get into cosmos, and we're not going to get into cosmos. Okay? So where it says that the category of any spiritual, occult, or religious system, conceivable category in any spiritual, occult, religious system, insert divine mathematics. Okay? So Kabbalah is a map or a model of the spirit world, meta-system and meta-knowledge system, cosmology and cosmogony, formulas, acronyms, ciphers, sigils, and numerology. Now, stop right there. Numerology, okay, is not the whole spooky-wooky, Scooby-Doo, monster mash that people are making it out to be. There's no spookers into numerology. All this is just the origins of numerology is geometry, which I just explained a little bit earlier. Okay? So, in that word, just insert gematria, per se. There's other parts to that as well. We're not going into tonight. Kabbalah or Kabbalah, it was apparent in the 3rd century, 13th century. Yeah, I went over that before. Kabbalah is a system of cosmology and cosmogony. Now, a lot of people don't know the difference between what's the difference between the two. So we're going to get into that. Cosmology is evolution, structure, and the constant sometimes I can't read my own handwriting. Constant parts of the universe. The cosmology of the Kabbalah is based on a more spiritual perspective of the universe. Okay? So it concerns itself with the phenomena of spirit and its domain, and how it interacts with the worlds of mind and matter. Okay? Now bear with me, it's going to get a little rocky. Okay? Cosmogony is the theory or model about the origin of the universe or how it was created. All right, stop right there. So when we deal with remember I said that when you deal with cosmogony, it's when the rubber hits the road. The reason why is now we're going to take these systems that we have as geometry. There's other systems too I'm not going to mention, but there's other systems, and you're going to apply it into understanding the science of life. Okay? You're going to understand the order and the origin the universe, the Sephirotic law. Because when you do a Kabbalah, we do a Sephirotic law. The laws that govern the universe, or the law is mathematics. So that's when you bring everything into one form, which is we call Sephirotic law, which is Kabbalah cosmogony. Okay, which I only teach my Nigist. There's 3 people I have. There's people I teach at the community college, right? I teach them cosmology, which is the order and everything, you know what I mean? Which is more like how the universe began. Cosmology in itself, like I buy books on cosmology to keep up on what's going on in the world, what's how the world created and so on and so forth. That's just, but you can YouTube that, just whatever. But with my initiatives, I teach the cosmogony, which we get into the deeper understanding of how numbers relate to man and his, like I said, the order and the origin and the order of how you operate in the universe. The class that I teach on Kabbalah itself is self-realization or knowledge itself. It deals with, now if you deal with Hinduism, they talk about self-realization, right? Now, they also, if you look in the tree of life as well, from the Hinduism perspective, there's a mother called Kali. Kali represents detachment, okay? Shiva represents Malkuth.
Looks like we had 3 drop calls, and I think the speaker was one. I still wasn't
something
doing
happened?
what
Did he drop his call or something?
Yeah, 786.
Okay.
I'm here. I'm here.
All right.
Yeah, it looks like
Okay,
his call dropped.
He said he's back online. He just told me I'm online now. Do you see the 724?
Not yet.
You don't see his number? Dr. J, can you hear me? If you can, press the 1. Hold on. Okay. Okay, he's coming back. Okay, y'all should be seeing the 724 in your queue host, correct?
No, it's not there yet.
Yeah, but he's not back yet.
Okay. Okay. He's calling in now. Okay. All right. He'll be back on in a second again. Can the family hear me?
Oh, here he is. Here he is. Hold
okay,
on.
He's back. Good. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back.
Long. Yeah, I must be doing something right because they cut it off. I must be giving up too much. You know what I mean?
It's all good. It's all good. So continue where you left off, Dr. J.
Okay, you want to continue? Everybody good?
Can. We good. Continue on.
Okay. Cosmogony is a theory of I think I left it there. Okay, cosmogony is a theory or model about the origin of the universe or how it was created. Keep in mind that the Kabbalah promotes the mind before matter model with regard to cosmogony, the matter before mind model that science promotes. what this means is that, like the biblical and other creation myths. Now, let's stop right there. The Bible, let's deal with the Bible for a minute, real fast. Some people will say that it's an allegory, and it's like, are the people in the Bible real? It's the elephant. It's another elephant in the room. Are the people in the Bible real, or is it more allegorical? It is, once you learn, the reason why I'm harping so much on divine mathematics, right? Once you learn divine mathematics and sacred geometry, you can actually now look through these books and see, like, for instance, Moses for what, 400 years, maybe 400 years. 400 years, there's the sacred four, okay? So, is it an allegory? There was people at that time that represented what the biblical text was, but it is also a mathematical equation as well. You see what I'm saying? Kabbalah will help you understand.
Ken, you're absolutely correct. There's no way to have an esoteric without the exoteric, vice versa.
Yes. So when you hear people say, well, it's just an allegory, like online, there's another problem with social media, because anybody can say anything. When the people say it's an allegory, they're correct that there is an allegory, but what they mean to say that there is a mathematical equation to these different properties in the Bible, as well as a physical property as well. You see what I'm saying? That there was people of the Bible at that time. One cannot be expressed without the other. Okay, like the brother just said. Like, you know what I mean? So when it says that the biblical and other creation myths is not a myth, the Bible is not a myth. That's the problem with our society today. People are not reading. But even my students, I can't even get a paragraph. Some of these kids, they're like, why should I read the Torah? Why should I read the Bible? Because the truth is in these books, especially the Torah and Torah Constitution, and following the law, statutes, commandments that govern this universe. Because if you don't, then you get into. I always tell my students, do you believe that there's something that governs the universe? They say yes. Okay, if you believe in law, then you believe in math, right? We said math and law go hand in hand. Let me say it again. Math and law go hand. You cannot separate the two. They're both separate as we stand right now. Therefore, when you read the Bible and you read the Torah, neither one makes sense to this society because everyone's non-religious, everyone's atheist. Somebody told me they was a Buddhist atheist or something. I mean, people are just making up stuff. You know what I mean? I'm waiting for somebody to tell me they're bunny. I mean, we're on that tip right now. So, but what's happening now, and I hate to say this, millions of people are going to die. Millions of people are already dead and they're walking around dead. Like all those horror movies, that's what's going on now. Like The Walking Dead, you just go outside and see The Walking Dead, and that's no disrespect to anybody, but the lines are being drawn. Either you follow the law, statutes, and commandments that govern this universe, or you don't. Period, grand opening, and grand closing. And so we're seeing people like, I don't know what to do with my life. What is going on? Like, there's so many people who are depressed in the society who are secretly depressed. They're not saying that, you know what I mean? Because the pride is too big. You see what I'm saying? But if they follow the law, statutes, commandments, they would be one with nature. What's that? Okay?
Yes, we hear what you, Dr. J.
Okay, this consciousness is unified. Okay, let's start from here. That, like the biblical and other creation myths, consciousness is listed as a unified field before the material universe unfolded. Okay, and that it had a direct part to play in that unfolding. We would like to call this ununified field of consciousness that existed before any material thing, the universal mind, or the monad, first being, or the one that engaged itself with the design, fashion, and souling of the spirit and the material universe. Okay? A lot to digest there, but, I never said this was going to be a walk in the park, per se. Okay? So do we have any more questions? Do we have any more? Because there's another part as well.
Okay.
I think there's some more callers on the switchboard.
Let's take some callers, Sister Nigist.
Okay.
We have 224. Check that one, David.
224-217. Hi, you're on the line. You have a question or a comment?
224-217. Oh, let's try 240. And then we still have Heaven Razor on the line.
All right. 240-979. You're on the line.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, I guess that no one have anything to say tonight. They just probably listening.
Right, because this right here, when you're dealing with these high sciences right here, we talking about from Adam to Cosmos to Adam, you know what I'm saying, esoterically. A lot of people don't really know the in-depthness of what we're expounding on, so a lot of people are going to, listen in. And like the brother said, to really understand Kabbalah, there has to be principles behind what you're building on, and that's true in the Constitution. I tell this to the brothers and sisters at the Mighty Hebrew University that it's very important to uphold the law, statutes, and commandments, because within the laws, it will cause the DNA to shift back to the original standing point that we originally came out of, the Qatar or the crown of the Sephiroth or the tree of life system in all absolute. So it's important to uphold the law, statutes, and commandments so we can get a better understanding of what was handed down and received. So the brother is absolutely correct. If we're not dealing with the law, statutes, and commandments, then you're not going to have understanding of Kabbalah. When you start talking about Madonna and all these different schools of thought that deal with the Kabbalah, they exit out the law, statutes, and commandments. So you got those that, understand Kabbalistic teachings to heal the Hebrew nation of Israel and humanity at large, but they uphold the law, statutes, and commandments. And then you got those that deal with the Kabbalah, and they deal with evil intent. And this is why there's a shifting in certain Hebrew words within the Tree of Life system that don't belong in certain areas, because when you look at the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 25, it speaks about how the you're a Gentile will have a time and a half a time to rule. So everything they did was to bring their vibration into physical substance. So that's deep that Dr. J is saying what he's saying, because a lot of people, when they look at the Tree of Life system, don't even recognize and realize that the setup is set up incorrect. Okay, so it's very important to actually get underneath a master teacher and build first, and then as you gradually grow, then you will understand the Tree of Life system by the way of applying it and manifesting the application of knowledge. So please, Doc, continue on, because this is a powerful presentation, and it actually breaks free the spiritual and mental depth that our people are in. And Ben Ami says it best in his book, Physical Immortality, Conquering Death, that we're going through three major problems, and that is the philosophy of death, or the learning process, and the second one, you have the psychology of death, or the internalization, and then the last without least is the physiology of death, or the application. So them three elements are very important to understand by the way of Kabbalicism and upholding the law, statutes, and commandments that are created by the way of the Constitution. Hallelujah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Wow. Sir. But yeah, I mean, when we deal with the Kabbalah, and I'm glad you mentioned Madonna, with the Kabbalah, it's something called the Kabbalah Center. His name is Michael. I can't remember his name right now. But when you deal with the Kabbalah Center, that's more of a feel-good Kabbalah. They deal with creation. They talk about the Torah, but those are groups that are more fluffy. You know what I mean? They don't get into in depth like we're talking to tonight. They don't deal with the mathematical origin of it. Madonna used to call herself Lilith. So the Torah statement out there.
That's a demon. As a matter of fact, that's a demon, if I ain't mistaken, right?
Yeah, the one with
Lilith.
Well, Lilith,
And,
I
think I know you talk about Michael Lightman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes, sir.
Right, but even with the Lilith, I just want to make it clear, when you get into the origin of the word Lilith, it goes back to the Hebrew word Lelah, which means to fold in a state of darkness. When you go into the Genesis, when it speaks about darkness was upon the face of the deep, it uses the Hebrew word Lelah. And this is the origin where they're trying to say that they get in the story of Lilith, was supposed to have been a syncubus demon that sucks baby souls. Okay, and then they say in turn this is supposed to have been the first wife of Adam. When you start getting into certain, Talmudic teaching. But I just want to make it clear, in essence, the word Lilith or Lelah wasn't an evil. It wasn't an evil inclination at first. It was only what we on this third dimension talk about, the opposite of light. But in all actuality, everything is light, but it's just vibrating on slower, faster vibrations. So when we speak about Lelah or to darken, that's only because this realm that we're in, as Dr. J was saying, it can't conceptualize the realm that Pacific light is on. But as time went on and developed, then you had certain traditions that brought forth Lilith, because there are realms that exist within the Sufferer tree where these dark forces actually exist, and they incarnate over time, and that's another story, another topic. But go ahead, Dr. J.
Okay, yeah, when we talk about Lilith, actually we're talking about the Glyphos, where she sits on top of the Glyphos. The Glyphos is the other tree of life that sits in the dark, right? If you get the book, Goodwin's Kabbalistic Encyclopedia, you see the version of the tree of life is called the Glyphos. Now with the Glyphos, that's when you start getting what's called argument. Okay, what they say is the dark side. Occultists will say that's the real side. That's what the Kabbalah is supposed to deal with. I disagree. I think that the Kabbalah that we deal with now, you see with the tree of life, is what they call the tree of death. And actually I'm looking at it right now. So it's Lilith on top, and then Sarat on the side, Kamala on one side, and Samuel. I don't see nothing that's dark. If we deal with Kabbalah, we're dealing with divine mathematics. So again, all of these symbols. The tree of life actually, when you deal with the Glyphos, is upside down and Lilith is on top. So it's above or below. So I don't look at it as like evil or anything of that nature. Again, once we get to our roots in sacred mathematics or divine mathematics, we can start to uncover, the mystery. And again, that's another
problem. Are you talking about the tree of death?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
The Glyphos.
If you have any questions to ask the great doctor, because you're very inquisitive, please ask Dr. Jason questions, Empress, because you get deep into these studies as well. So any questions that you want to ask him, please, Empress, ask him.
Oh, I'm pretty neutral right now. David and Stefan, I don't know, you might want to say something?
Well,
no,
okay. Also, we mentioned Michael Latin, right? The good book on him is the guide to the hidden wisdom of Kabbalah, the 10 complete Kabbalah lessons. The only thing with his, like I said, any person that's coming from I call that New Age Kabbalah, is that they're not going to give you the origin and the order of it. They're going to give you more of a light and fluffy, Walmart version of what Kabbalah is. Like, here's the Sephiroth, here's the different emanations. They're not going to really go in, and they deal with creation. They always mention the creator involved. They don't go into emanation. They don't go into the iron and the iron soap and the iron so forth. It doesn't deal with cosmology. So for people who see these books, it's like, I got a good, because they're everywhere. Those books are everywhere. You can get books on Rabbi Michael Latin. He's on YouTube. There's something called Cop TV. That's on YouTube. I mean, they are what they are, but they're not going to get you where you need to go. That's like the, like I said, the Walmart version of Kabbalah. They really didn't go in depth. The only people who can give you the in depth are those who are Israelites, or those, even some of the Israelites can do it, but somebody who's an Israelite or someone who says they're a Moor but is in depth. Really, the Moors don't even do it. The Moors I know, they don't even mess with it. They deal with astronomy, which astronomy deals with Kabbalah as well. Okay? But that's why we, at this time, we need to deal with people who are Kabbalists. Okay? We broke down who the Hebrews are, and we broke down who is the Moors are. So that was the big thing. That's the big two. The whole Egypt thing that the Egyptians created, that's false. That they didn't come from Egypt. As a matter of fact, we can show and prove that the Israelites came in and taught them. But that's a whole nother. That'll be a whole nother, show that dealt with that. And another thing about Kemetic science and whatnot, it is what it is. I don't get into the policy of it. I'm going to just speak from the Kabbalistic perspective. It did not come from Egypt. It did not come from Egypt. It came from the Moria. So when you see, like I said, in the, I think it's the 17th dynasty, that they mentioned they seen the tree of life, and the tree of life everywhere, all over the world. So it didn't come from Egypt. It came from the Moria. And all forms of healing, which I'm going to get into right now, dealing with healing. When we deal with healing, we're trying to heal. Like I said before earlier.
Dr. J, can I just briefly read something real fast to back up what you said, that it don't come from Kemet? I have a book right here called Legends of Atlantis and Lost Lemuria by W. Scott Elliott on page 49. It says first settlement in Egypt. It says Egypt must now be referred to, and the consideration of the subject should let in a flood of light upon its early history. Although the first settlement in that country was not in the strict sense of the term a colony, it was from the Toltec race that was subsequently drawn the first great body of immigrants intended to meet and dominate the Aboriginal people. In the first instance, it was the transfer of the Great Lodge of Initiatives. This took place about 400,000 years ago. The golden age of the Toltecs was long past. The first great cataclysm had took place. The moral degradation of the people and the consequent practice of twisting the Kabbalah into black arts by the way of Lemuria were becoming more accentuated and widely spread. Pure surroundings of the enlightened Adapt Lodge were needed. Egypt was isolated and was thinly peopled, and therefore Egypt or Kemet was chosen. The settlement so may answer its purpose, and undisturbed by adverse conditions, the Lodge of Initiatives for nearly 200,000 years did its work. About 210,000 years ago, when the time was right, the Saba Lodge founded an empire, the first divine dynasty of Egypt, and began to teach the people. Then it was that the first great body of colonists was brought from Atlantis, and before then, Lemuria, the oldest civilization and continent in existence. And sometime during the 10,000 years that led up to the second destruction, the two great pyramids of Giza were built, partly to provide halls of initiation, but also to act as treasure house and shrine for some great talisman of power during the submergence. Okay, next page. During the submergence, which the initiatives knew to be impending. Map number 3 shows Egypt at that date as underwater when ancient Atlantis and Lemuria existed. It remained so for a considerable period, but on its reemergence, it was again peopled by the descendants of many of its old inhabitants who had retired to the Abyssinian mountains, shown in map number 3 as an island as well as by fresh bands of black Atlantean colonists from various parts of the world, and a considerable immigration of black, now today known as Akkadians, then helped to modify the Egyptian type. This is the area of the second divine dynasty of Egypt, the rulers of the country being again initiated adapts. The destruction of 80,000 years ago again laid the country underwater, but this time it was only a temporal wave when it preceded the third divine dynasty that mentioned by Menatho began its rule, and it was under the early kings of this dynasty that the great temple of Karnak and many of the more ancient buildings still standing in Egypt were constructed. In fact, with the exception of the two pyramids not built in Egypt predates the destruction of 80,000 BCE. The final submergence of Poseidon set another tidal wave over Egypt. This too was only a temporal calamity, but it brought the divine dynasty to an end, for the larger initiatives had transferred its quarters to other lands. Various points here left untouched have already been dealt with in the transaction of the London Lodge, the pyramid, and the Stonehenge. Hallelujah. So, as we can see with the great doctor is saying, Egypt, as we know today, when we start talking about the Egyptian mummies or the Kemetic mummies, these are actually descendants of Khan, what we know as Ham. But there was people that populated that land during pre-Diluvian time periods. So when we actually look at the Great Pyramids and different things like that, we look at the mummies of today and we consider they're actually the founders of these architectural structures. But in fact, there was people that populated that land before even the children of Ham existed. Hallelujah.
And that was the tree of life was in the temple Kamamombo, which they tried to say that they originated from, which they also said the chakra system said originated from, which is also false. The chakra system did not originate in Egypt. You know. So we covered a lot. I think we covered a good phase of it as far as the beginnings go of numerical modalities. And now, obviously, like I said before, we did not cover on the tree of life, the Ostium GM, because, like I said, it's distorted, and we need to focus more on the sacred Kabbalistic geometric understanding first before we move forward. So one thing I do want to go over, as I said before, was healing. Like when you start dealing with, Reiki and whatnot, and how it came from Kabbalah. Okay, this is from another site to go at. It's called the Ancient Order of Free Asiatics. But Prince Lambert, they have, he has knowledge as far as what the Kabbalah is, and he gets into how it connects. So that's another elephant in the room, is that with the nation of gods and earth, when they deal with mathematics, what would be the difference between supreme mathematics and divine mathematics? And it'd be nothing. It's the same thing. One just deals with more of a system that represents. I'm gonna manage out.
Somebody got me.
Sounds like someone is sleeping right now.
Yeah, we know who it is.
Baby, you sleeping?
Yeah, I'm know who it is. No. Come on, man.
Someone's just sleeping like, they in their bed, tucked in.
Yo.
Well, keep continue.
There you go, man. There you go. You can mute your phone, yo, all right?
For real? You just snoring all over the phone?
Yeah.
On live radio, Heaven Razor is snoring on the phone.
Stop. No, I just took you know what it was?
He is sleeping on live radio. He is sleeping.
Right. Listen, I ain't want to say your name. Empress, you funny. You just...
Empress.
I didn't even know who it was at first. And then he just woke up like...
But
he wasn't asleep.
I mean, man, he woke up like, oh, yeah, but just, mute your phone. It's cool, had a long day.
He was snoring.
I was sitting
sleeping.
Here, man, relax, listen to this conversation.
Calling the
Right. Mr. Sandman and Tricky Monday.
Well, you gotta tell us what you was dreaming about, because he was sleeping good. That was some good sleep.
This is a good place.
Empress, stop it.
What was you just dreaming? What was your vision just now?
Yeah,
probably putting a tree of life together, and it's probably
that's exactly where I was at. Though I was in the tree of life.
Okay.
You said the Sephora.
Right, but people teach that when you get sleepy, it's because you're tired. I beg to differ. I think people get sleepy because you register so much. You might register a certain amount of consciousness, and your essence has to, register all that. So when you go to sleep, you station everything in your sleep. You see what I'm saying? But I got a question for you, Dr. J, if that's okay with you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you might. Yeah, I mean, first, I want to give all honor and praise to Yahweh, the supreme, eternal, powerful, one of our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Yahweh, I am so for giving you, the opportunity to come on here and present, because I know you deal with this, and you're very sacred when we're dealing with this. And me and you, we go back many years. Question. Because I've seen it years ago that when you look at the Saba, it was like there are different ones, but what I do notice that it is a disorganization in many of these tree of life systems. Could you explain the beginning when you found an error within the tree of life system and seeing that it wasn't in its proper order, and what made you actually see that? And could you expound a little bit more, basically, warning the people to be careful, because a lot of times people get involved in these things and don't know that if it's not in proper order, they can actually be putting things on them that need not be in their presence. So expound on your experience real quick as to how you've seen that.
That's what I'm talking about. See, that's magnetic right there, because I was just going to get into, like, the origin of Kabbalah as far as, like, like the the chronology, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, that goes along with what I'm just getting ready to say, like the beginning, the esoteric beginnings of it, and where it fell apart, for us with the tree of life. Now, when we talk about the tree of life, we'll talk briefly on, we know about the Lambert Kabbalah, or Isaac Lambert, right? Let me read this for you. From the beginning of its development, the Kabbalah embraced an esotericism, which is false. It's always been esoteric, because we know it was oral. It was an oral tradition. It wasn't written. Closely akin to the spirit of Gnosticism, which is, once again, false again. But I'm reading these in the text of how it's written and shown to the public. Now, we may know that this is false and everything, but the public will know, so they'll read it and take it, not saying they're going to take some face value, but they'll look at it and not know the correct origin. So we have teachers here that are Kabbalists and built the Kabbalah for many years, 20 plus. Now we can correct and say, okay, now this is what it is, what it isn't. Of Gnosticism, which was not restricted to instruction in the mystical path, but also included ideas on cosmology, angelology, and magic, only later and as a result of contact with medieval Jewish philosophy. Now, you said, where did it go wrong? There you go, right there. Medieval Jewish philosophy. That right there just tells you, that's like going to Skull Castle or something. I mean, There's a book, I got to find it, that talked about once it got in it, because we go back, this is where it went wrong. When you do with Kabbalah, you deal with the Kabbalah that deals with the K, which is more, you deal with the Israelites and the Lemurian calendar, right? Well, not the Lemurian calendar, but the continent of Lemuria. Then you deal with the Q, which you deal with the Hermetic text. And you deal, that's where you get with, what's the one guy? Melchizedek. Not the real Melchizedek, it's the white boy Melchizedek. And then you deal with the Kabbalah with the C, with this with the Christian Kabbalah. When he came into the Christian Kabbalah, coming out of the Hermetic Kabbalah, which still is doing, we still doing with the Israelites then, we do with the Christian Kabbalah, or what you just said here, was the Jewish mystical theology and medieval Jewish philosophy. That's where it went downhill. Okay? Now I'm going to come up to a specific date where everything just turned into a couch fire. The Christian Kabbalah, personally, I don't throw the baby out the bathwater because it's scattered within all three. Okay? So when you see it, you'll see Kabbalah with Kabbalax. You can see it Kabala, which is what the Freemasons studied on, or you'll see Kabla, or I'm sorry, Cabla, which deals with the Christian text, but also the Freemasons build on that. And you'll see the Qabla or Qabblah. Okay? Bear with me. Okay. So on ladder, and as a result of contact with medieval, and on result of contact with medieval Jewish philosophy, the Kabbalah became a Jewish mystical theology, more or less systematically elaborate. This process brought a separation of the mystical speculative elements from the occult, and especially the magical elements, the version that at times were distinct but never told. Okay? So even you had the book too, I'm going to flip-flop. You had the book, The Secret Doctrines of the Kabbalah as well, correct? By Hebrew.
Okay, yeah, right here I got the Secret Doctrine of the Kabbalah covering the key to Hebraic sacred science, and I have the Secret Doctrine, Volume 1 and 2 by H.P. Blavatsky as well, and her other book, Isis Unveiled, Science and Theology.
Okay, so you know in the first chapter, I think it was the introduction to the priestly legacy, the brief history.
Yes, I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it now. Why, you need me to read something?
Oh, no, there's a part in there, I think it's on page 5, where it says, in the absence, the Sadducees were associated with the traditional priesthood descended from the Zodok, as he ultimately was from Aaron's son, Eliezer. Now, dealing with this is when it was still with the K, okay? What I just read is still...
I see it right now. I see what you're saying. You're talking about with the line of Zodok and all of them, correct?
It was an oral book. Once it flipped into going from the Q, Kabbalah with the Q, and going into the C, and there was a book, like I said, the best books of Kabbalah are even Kabbalah books. They're actually college books that deal with just religion in general, like, worldwide religion books. In this book, one book I have, and again, that's why you have to go to a Kabbalah, because there's a lot of things you cannot get. He said once Judaism, which we know, got a hold of it, that's when Kabbalah got corrupt. When we come into the Tree of Life, how it came to corrupt when the Freemasons grabbed it. And also there's a book that's out of print that I have. I'm about to grab it right now. It's called
Also I got here something called the Kabbalah, the definitive history of the evolution of ideas, leading figures, and extraordinary influence on quote-unquote Jewish mysticism by Goshen. Mm-hmm. So you heard of that before, correct?
No, sir. That's no.
Okay. Yeah, I got that. So go ahead. What you were saying?
Yeah, this book called the Kabbalah of the Golden Dawn. So once these secret societies got a hold, they started to mess with the origin and interpretation of the Tree of Life to throw the people off. What's the page right in front of me? I'm going to read you something from the Ancient Order of Creation. It's on the page. It was just here, man. Hold on. Okay, I see. Okay.
Okay, take your time.
Life of a scientist. What's my script?
Take your time. And as you doing that, did you find it yet?
Yeah, I got it. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
This seems the proper place to put out that the unwritten Kabbalah, like the written Kabbalah, is set forth in symbolical language, with the purposeful blinds and subverges to confuse the uninitiated. Let me repeat that again. This seems the proper place to point out that the unwritten Kabbalah, like the written Kabbalah, is set forth in symbolic language, with the purposeful blinds and the subversions confuse the uninitiate. Okay? Purposely to confuse people who's not an initiate. Key word is initiate. You have to be initiate, okay? So that the few who undoubtedly exist at the present day who have received it. Most remain in so much ignorant of its true interpretation as the majority of students do after studying the more accessible written Kabbalah, i.e. the Michael, the guy Michael. I don't even remember because I don't really know him, but Michael Lackman, the Kabbalah Center, which is all over. You see those in New York and Miami. Matter of fact, the one singer, she's a Kabbalist, Ariana Grande, whatever her name is. She had, in her video, she had a guy who had a scepter around his neck, and she pushed him to a lake of fire, right? Now, what is that supposed to mean? You see what I'm saying? That's how they're flipping it into something that's satanic, and that's what we have to watch out for, and that's what's being taught to the people who do not know the proper understanding of Kabbalah. Someone who else is a Kabbalist that's like famous? Paris Hilton. Somebody else I heard was Lindsay Lohan. These aren't they're not signed off. Those aren't initiates. It's just somebody who read something online and thought it was cute and became that. Ashton Kutcher, he's a Kabbalist. Well, so-called. He's not a cute Kabbalist because if he didn't get signed off by Israelite or someone who is of our nature, then like no white person can say, or you're a Gentile can say that you're a Kabbalist or not. Even the people who are Euro Gentiles can't call themselves Kabbalah because they're not linked to the original strand. They're not linked to the original priesthood. We have a link. That's why it's in our DNA. That's why people are now starting to become interested. The more that we become awakened, the more this science will start to wake within you. Remember, it's within you. The tree of life is a part of you. You know, it's the makeup of your body, the atom content, right? So, we see that most remain so much ignorant of the true interpretation as the majority of students do after studying more accessible written Kabbalah. The unwritten Kabbalah has been transmitted only through certain schools of thought and science, right there and then, that priesthood we've been talking about. The practical Kabbalah treats ceremonial magic and includes the making of magic circles, wands, swords, pinnacles, and use of inscriptions and symbols for performing wonders. We deal with mathematics. We don't. This ain't Harry Potter. You know what I mean? Now, don't get me wrong. That I agree that magic may be a science. No, we don't get down with that. It all has to do with, you know what I mean? Accessible books for treating the subject is Supra for the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, and 10th books of Moses, the Psalm and the King, and the Lesser Kings of King Solomon. The lyrical Kabbalah is written that the letters, numbers, and words must be transposed to perceive the meaning. It is a word really written in code and must be systematically decoded to have any value. The code that must be used to decipher it, which I'm not going to get into, takes 3 different forms as follows: Gematria, Tamara, another Quran, or the Dhammatic Kabbalah. This division has 4 chief headings: the Sephra, Yesra, Sephra, and the Ashmitzvah, and the Zohar. Let's first talk about Yehovah, so it's like the angels, the forms of so we're not going to get too deep into that. But if you want, I can go further on it.
That's deep, because you know what just crossed my mind? As you said that, if any of y'all need it, I got it. Michael Lightman got a He wrote about the Zohar. I got it if y'all need it.
Yeah, I think I got a now with him I do mess with him. Now don't be wrong, there's jewels, he has jewels. But it's like you have to really know Kabbalah to really actually see, you know what I mean? Again, these people when they put out books, they encode what the actually it is. So it's right. That's why they say
like trying to hide the truth from people, right?
Mm-hmm. So it's like it's right in front of your face, but if you don't know the more language to it, like I just as I just spoke of, you don't know the language.
Because you know what? He did something called, I think it was called the hidden in plain sight.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's why it says, like they say, it's not hidden, but it's hidden, like you said, in plain sight. So that's why it's good to learn gematria and learn, sacred geometry, and learn Hebrew, properly, and then that's when you can able to interpret, what's what in the Kabbalah, because it's not. They will not. Matter of fact, it's the book everyone always talks about. The book from Dion Fortune. What's the right part? The Mystical Kabbalah. I'm not a fan of that book because in the book she says I can't really give nothing up. You know what I mean? So what can you give up? What are they really telling you? You know what I mean? So like I said, the best sites that I've seen for Kabbalah is the Ancient World Theologic site. The book list that I've given out, and anybody have any questions on that book list, they can contact me and I'll give you the information and show them.
Yeah. I got a PDF of it, so if I can email it to you or whatever y'all want me to do. 'Cause I want the family to be. We got to be armed because they all armed with our stuff. So why can't we have it?
Well, all this is on, with the Kabbalah on the Quoquan law. Its origins is ours. It's just that we fell asleep at a certain time. We were at war with ourselves at a certain time, and it got lost. So it's coming back to us.
What's so interesting to me? I wanted you, because I could tell you a scholar. How do you see with Sumer, ancient Sumer?
Oh, Sumer, yeah, that's ours as well. With ancient Sumer, just like when you deal with places like ancient Sumer, just like Egypt, they had their time and they fell. Just like the United States, they had this time and that was fall. But one thing will always remain is that the mathematics is the laws of the universe. You hear that from my brothers and sisters in the gods and earth say. So with ancient Sumer, there was a tree of life in ancient Sumer as well. But the consistent model is always law in the form of mathematics. As a matter of fact, there's one guy, I forgot his name, but he wrote that the Kabbalah came out of Sumer. You know what I mean? Which is not necessarily true, but it traveled into Sumer. You see what I'm saying? This was like one of, like you said, the Indiana Jones story. It's like, but they were searching for like the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail deals with the Kabbalah as well. You know what I mean? And so at the time, this sacred information was just getting carried along. And as it was carried along, a lot of it fell off. A lot of it got misinterpreted. Then you got these secret orders of society take it and flip it and so hide it. And it's like you said, it's hidden into the sight. You know what I mean? So what we have to do now is dedicate ourselves to being the greatest of ourselves. And when we do that, we're able to take in this knowledge, not just for it to seem like a certain way, but to really look for like some type of eternal salvation or some eternal bliss, which is Kabbalah is all about. It's teaching you how to love. You know what I mean? What it means, what true love really looks like. You know what I mean? Because if you don't have self-love or you're not joy-centered, which 98% of people you meet, are not, you can't see the true blessings that's going upon you having a human experience. So,
that's facts. That's actual facts, though, right there.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. The name of the game, and like I said, you show me a good teacher. A good teacher is a better poet. And but Kabbalah is also an art. Remember, I said one of the books, it was the beginner's guide to constructing the universe, the mathematical archetypes of nature, arts, and science, knowing everything from 1 to 10, right? So it's an art, as well. And it should be treated just like when you was in school, you were excited to go to school because you were learning, you were growing, you wanted to get good grades. It's the same way you have to approach this now. What's the first? They say the first thing you should teach your child is geometry, shapes and figures. The problem is we didn't enter into the spiritual aspect, of what these shapes and figures actually mean to you in the world around you. You know what I mean? And that's what Kabbalah offers to, our community, because this is nothing if it doesn't offer solutions to the community, whether it's financially, spiritually problems, you know what I mean? It can give you spiritual empowerment and social success. There's nothing wrong with having some type of financial income that's secure. And the Kabbalah can give that to you as well, giving you some type of order. Remember we said what the Mighty Hebrew said, you deal with the law, statutes, and commands, you're one with nature. So all these things will come to you that you need, not just what you want. But you're able to have an equilibrium about yourself or an equanimity about yourself that's balanced. So you don't want, like, maybe a $100,000 car may not be for you in this incarnate, But how are you supposed to tell that? You need a system, quote-unquote system, which is Kabbalah, that helps you balance up to see what you need. So it removes the veil of some whatever ignorance that propels in the society,
It makes it so much sense. I'm loving it because you answer certain things that I had questions about.
I try to keep it on a level, on a CCAT level. I think a lot of people who taught the Kabbalah, they meant well. Maybe I think a lot of people's egos get in the way when they teach it, so they go straight into maybe like science of the Archaic, which we know is the tree of life, right? And that's not correct because, it's like I said, it's the story. Like me and the Mighty Hebrew is spoken about. We have to go back to the sacred geometrical roots of understanding what that means before we get into the science of cosmology and cosmology. You see what I'm saying? So I think the people meant well that came before who taught the Kabbalah, but it's best that Kabbalah comes from someone who is a Kabbalist, not somebody who's free. So, most high willing, I'm more than welcome to come back. We can go even deeper, That was just kindergarten. we can go even deeper. We still ain't touch on a lot of subjects, like cosmology. Cosmology. We still ain't touch on the fact of the tree of life itself, which I probably won't do on air too much. You know what I mean? I think that's a little bit more sacred. But just, more like astronomy, Kabbalah and astronomy. So, yeah, how to,
That's real.
Okay.
Makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so you would like to come back, Dr. J, for a part 2?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, whoever, like I said, this was my first ever phone interview. Like I said, to give a brief background on, for me, I didn't really believe to put it out necessarily like nationwide. Here in Pittsburgh, I said, look, I deal with Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh problems. It's like me going to Philadelphia and dealing with Philadelphia problems. I'm like, well, the Mighty Hebrew is in Philadelphia, so there's no need to, they could visit. I always felt like Pittsburgh should deal with, Pittsburgh problems and not try to save the whole planet. But through the Most High, Sarah Ducatiers was just here not too long ago, and he mentioned it to me. He's like, man, you should maybe try to get into a classroom and try to, take it off the streets that you've been doing. And, I listened to reason, and then the Most High blessed with the opportunity to teach at college, and then this radio show, he offered me to come on this radio show. So here we go. But the thing for me now is to set up a way that is digestible. Like what I just told everyone tonight is I can't simplify it enough, and that's another thing that I think you run into too. I've seen it on some of your posts. People saying it's too complicated. It's not too complicated. You can only simplify something so much before it's like either you're gonna get it or you're not gonna get it. If you're not gonna put the energy into it, you're not gonna get it. You know, these sciences are not complicated only because you're not focused enough on this to get it. You know what I mean? It's gonna move, and I can only move at a certain pace before it's just like, look, you know. That was what I spoke about tonight was a CCAT run level. It can't be any simplified than that. You know what I mean? We'll be using crayons and, you know, Elmer's glue and, you know what I mean, stick figures and stuff, you know, in a minute. But, you know, I based my classes on my ex-girlfriend. My ex-girlfriend, she was like, I guess I can't listen to the class because I want to understand it. So it's like, I keep her in mind when I make my courses and my classes and stuff and do my teaching. You know, but at the same time, I address the family to strive harder to, you know what I mean, to, you know, it takes a lot to put these classes together. It's not easy as it sounds. And it's simplified to a point that is digestible as it is. So, you know, you got to keep that in mind. And once you speak on that, Mighty Hebrew, you still there?
Okay, my man, I'm still here.
Yeah, once you speak on that, like about, are we making this more complicated or should we simplify it for the people?
Kang, that's definitely a good question right there. Based on the vibration of what's going on right now in the Western world, through music, entertainment, social media, they have dumbfounded our people to a point by